Chapter 1708, The Endless Sea, 3, Third Elder. This result was fair, just, and open. Even if it doesn't match your expectations, I hope that you can accept this fact. After all, this is the result of the vote of all the elders present. Do you want to overturn this result by your own strength? Or are you doubting my character? Leng Ruoxue said calmly. If they don't want to go, I can go by myself. The third elder said in a somewhat angry and embarrassed manner. You'll go by yourself? Are you going to die? Leng Ruoxue scoffed. It was not that she looked down on third elder, but with his impulsiveness, he would only be there to make up the numbers. Perhaps, the other party would be more than happy to have another reverent god. You, third elder's face turned ashen from Leng Ruoxue's words. I'm a reverent god. What's wrong with reverent god level? Godfather is also a hierarch, and one of the top hierarch experts. However, he's still trapped in the secret realm. Do you think you can escape unscathed? Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. Even though what she said was the truth, it was rather piercing to third elder's ears. This was because Leng Ruoxue was clearly looking down on him. This fact made him feel a little embarrassed and angry. We won't know if we don't try. The third elder roared in anger. The veins on his forehead were faintly visible. He was already in a state of extreme anger. The second elder saw that the third elder's emotions were a little too agitated and quickly tried to smooth things over. Third brother. We really can't go to that secret realm. We have to guard the Ning family well. Otherwise, if something happens to the Ning family, we won't be able to explain it to the master. Second elder. It's enough to have you guarding the Ning family. I must go to the secret realm. The third elder said angrily. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Looking at the third elder's back, the second elder sighed, his face full of helplessness. Then, he turned to the other elders and said, since the matter has already been decided, then let's not mention the secret realm again. The most important thing for us now is to guard the Ning family well, so that people with ill intentions won't have an opportunity to take advantage of us. Then what about the third elder? The seventh elder said worriedly. Let him be. The second elder said helplessly. The third elder's personality was very similar to his. It was very difficult to change the things that they had decided on. Therefore, even if they stopped the third elder from going to the secret realm, they would not be able to stop him. Let's send someone to keep an eye on him. The seventh elder said in a low voice. I can't even keep an eye on him. There's no need to send anyone. The second elder thought for a moment and said. Then, he looked at the elders present and said, there's nothing else, let's end the meeting. As soon as he finished speaking, all the elders stood up and walked out. Just as Leng Ruoxue was about to leave as well, she was stopped by the second elder. Little girl. The second elder said softly. Second elder, what's the matter? Leng Ruoxue asked, puzzled. Why did this old man stop her? I would like to ask when Miss Lin plans to leave. The second elder said, somewhat embarrassed. 3 days later. There are some things I need to prepare. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. Oh. Then if there's anything you need my help with, don't hesitate to ask, Miss Leng. The second elder said with great enthusiasm. Don't worry. I won't be polite with second elder. Leng Ruoxue promised. Then, she left the meeting hall with the demon. The next day. As expected, Leng Ruoxue had sent Fengde to deliver the list of items that second elder needed his help to prepare. Most of them were medicinal herbs, but there were also a few smithing materials. However, when second elder saw the number of medicinal herbs on the list, cold sweat started to drip down his forehead. He regretted it. Why did he say that he would help her yesterday? Now, she had asked him to take out so many medicinal herbs in one go. This time, the Ning family's medicinal herbs warehouse would probably be emptied out by her. However, it was fortunate that Leng Ruoxue only wanted some ordinary medicinal herbs. Otherwise, he would be so depressed that he would buy a piece of tofu and commit suicide. However, even if they were just ordinary medicinal ingredients, the amount was still rather shocking. When he handed the list to the seventh elder and asked him to prepare it, the seventh elder's hands were trembling. Fengde, who was present, saw their uncollected expressions and despised them in his heart. This was just how far away. The leader of the 8 great divine regions? How could such a small amount of medicinal herbs take their old lives? To be honest, if it wasn't for the young miss wanting to prepare more medicinal pills in case of an emergency, they wouldn't have needed to ask the Ning family for this. This was an urgent need. Moreover, it was for the Ning family. How could these old things not understand? The more Fengde thought about it, the angrier he got. In the end, he didn't have a good expression and said coldly, "If the 2 elders are reluctant to part with these medicinal herbs, I think we should forget about it. We can buy it outside." "Thanks, no. It wasn't tea. You've misunderstood. It's just that the amount of these herbs is a little too much, so we have to prepare them now." When the second elder heard Fengde's words, he was so scared that he quickly said, "How can I let them go out and buy medicinal herbs? What face will the Ning family have in front of them in the future?" What's more, he was doing it for the Ning family, so even if he was reluctant, he had to pay the price. Otherwise, wouldn't their Ning family be ridiculed to death by these people in the future? If that's the case, then quickly go and prepare. My lady needs it urgently. Fengde urged, then turned and left. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue was refining elixirs in the purple bamboo house in her bracelet. Basically, as long as she wanted to get the medicinal pills, she would refine 1,000 bottles. These 1,000 bottles were not the small bottles she had sold to second elder and the others. This bottle contained at least 1,000 medicinal pills. Moreover, she had to prepare some medicinal herbs, especially ordinary medicinal herbs, because the amount of ordinary medicinal herbs was generally large. Almost every kind of medicinal pill required a lot of ordinary medicinal herbs as ingredients, so it was really impossible to not have them. When the seventh elder had gathered all the herbs on Leng Ruoxue's list and sent them to her, Leng Ruoxue had just come out of the bracelet. "Miss Leng. These are the herbs you wanted." The moment the seventh elder saw Leng Ruoxue, he immediately passed her the storage ring. "I'll have to trouble you, seventh elder." Leng Ruoxue nodded to express her gratitude. "It's no trouble, Miss Leng. You'll have to make more preparations for this trip to the secret realm. If you have any other needs, just let us know and we'll do our best to find them for you." The seventh elder promised. "I also need a map to the secret plane." With the seventh elder's reminder, Leng Ruoxue finally recalled that they didn't seem to know the location of the mystic realm yet. "Ah. I'll go get it for Miss Leng." The seventh elder was dumbfounded and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. In fact, he had also overlooked this matter. Moreover, this was a very important matter. Not long after, the seventh elder returned and passed the map to Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue unhurriedly opened the map. There wasn't even a single word on the map. However, there was an extremely eye-catching red dot in the middle of the map. That was the location of the mystic realm that had been marked out. "Where is this place?" Leng Ruoxue, who didn't know much about the god world, pointed at the area around the little red dot. "This should be the endless sea. Could it be that the secret realm is on the sea?" The seventh elder said in surprise. It was the first time he had seen the map of the secret realm since he came back. Looking at the shape of the red dot, it looked like the endless sea. "This map is too simple. Do you have a more detailed one?" Looking at the map, Leng Ruoxue felt a slight headache. She was not familiar with the immortal realm to begin with, and now she was given a map that did not even have any key points. Wasn't this making things difficult for her? "Ah. There's only one type of map to the secret region. However, I can give you a map of the divine realm. The markings on it are more striking." Looking at Leng Ruoxue's conflicted expression, the seventh elder hurriedly said. "I'll have to trouble you, seventh elder." Leng Ruoxue said listlessly. It's no trouble at all. The seventh elder said with a smile. He had a map of the god world in his storage ring. After he took it out, he gave it to Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue compared the two maps and finally understood the area around the red dot. Most of the area around the small red dot belonged to the endless sea, and according to her guess, the small red dot should be either on the beach or on the sea, and it had not appeared for a long time. Otherwise, it would not have not been marked on the map. However, according to what she knew, the endless ocean was not a bustling place. There had always been few people there. It would not be easy to discover this secret realm that had suddenly appeared. Thinking about this, Leng Ruoxue's suspicions grew. That's right, didn't the dolphin she took in come from the endless sea? According to the dolphin, it was also an overlord of the endless sea and had many subordinates. Perhaps she should ask the local snake of the endless sea. Thinking of this, she found an excuse to go back to her room and then directly entered the bracelet. At this moment, the dolphin she was looking for was playing happily under the waterfall behind the purple bamboo house. Moreover, at this moment, it was also in a mimicry state. It looked small and very mini and cute. Master! You're here. The moment Leng Ruoxue walked into the waterfall, a small head popped out of the water. The big, watery eyes stared at her without blinking. There was even a trace of shyness and timidity in the eyes. Chapter 1709, The Mysterious Shadow. 1. Little Dolphin, I have something to ask you. Leng Ruoxue went straight to the point. Master! What's the matter? As the little dolphin spoke, it kept splashing water with its tail, having a lot of fun. I want to ask you about the endless sea. Leng Ruoxue said as she stroked the little dolphin's smooth forehead. Hee hee. Master! You found the right person to ask me about the endless sea. I was born and raised there, and no one knows that place better than me. The little dolphin said a little smugly, and its watery eyes even revealed a trace of pride. Then do you know that there is a secret realm in the endless sea? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. A secret realm? There's no secret realm in the endless sea, right? The little dolphin's face was filled with confusion. Are you sure? Leng Ruoxue said with uncertainty. Master! I've been away from the endless sea for several years. When I was there, I was very sure that there was no secret realm there, but am not too sure about the situation there now. If Master wants to know, I can go back and investigate. No one is more familiar with the situation there than me. The little dolphin said confidently. There's no hurry. We're going to the endless sea anyway. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. Arg! Master is going to the endless sea. Just for the secret realm? The little dolphin's eyes widened as it asked in surprise. Is there a problem? Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but ask when she saw the little dolphin's shocked expression. Of course there's a problem. Master! The endless sea is very far from here. Moreover, even if there is a secret realm there, by the time we get there, I'm afraid that the good things will have been taken away. So, we'd better not go. The journey is too far and not worth it. The little dolphin suggested. No one knew better than it how greedy the beasts of the endless sea were. Even if it was a weed, as long as it grew on their territory, it would belong to them. No one was allowed to touch it, so it was not optimistic about the so-called secret realm. Little dolphin. I must go there. Moreover, I'm not going there for the treasures in the secret realm. There's no news of Godfather after he went there, so I must go and take a look. Leng Ruoxue asked worriedly. Oh. I'll go with Master. With me around, the beasts there will have to give me some face. They won't dare to bully their master. The little dolphin promised. Good. Then we'll set off tomorrow. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Hee hee. I can go home and take a look. I still have a lot of treasures at home. I left in a hurry last time and didn't have time to bring them. This time, I'll take them all out. The little dolphin chuckled. Don't you beastie always carry your treasures with you? Why did you leave it at home? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion after hearing the little dolphin's words. As far as she knew, beasts were born with their own storage space. The good things they found would basically be stored inside. As long as they didn't say anything, no one would know what was inside. Therefore, this was the first time she heard that a beast would hide things in his house. Master. You don't know, although our storage space is innate, but the area is not big, so if we have too many things, it's safer to hide them at home. But if our home is occupied by other beasts, then it's hard to say. The little dolphin explained with a smile. So that's how it is. Little dolphin, let's go to your house when we reach the endless sea. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Thank you, Master. Master. I still have a lot of underlings in the endless sea. Can you bring them here to cultivate? The little dolphin looked up and asked softly. Thanks, they're all beasts of the sea, will they adapt here? As you know, there's not much water here, and it's not as spacious as the sea. Leng Ruoxue reminded. It doesn't matter. Compared to water, we need spiritual energy more. Therefore, this place is perfect for them. The little dolphin said with certainty. If they are willing to follow you, then let them come. However, since you're here, you have to follow the rules and not make trouble. Leng Ruoxue said the ugly words first, in case something unpleasant happened when the little dolphin's underlings came. Don't worry, Master. I'll keep an eye on them. The little dolphin quickly said. As the saying goes, share good fortune with others. Now that it could cultivate in such a good place, it naturally wanted to give its little brothers a good opportunity to cultivate. That's good. Leng Ruoxue nodded, then stood up and left. The next day. Leng Ruoxue and the rest had already made their preparations and were ready to set off early in the morning. However, before they could leave, the second elder and the others came to Ning Ziyuan to see them off. Little girls, I wish you all the best. The second elder said with a worried look. Leng Ruoxue had brought her family and subordinates to the mystic realm this time, and he was really worried. However, he could not follow because someone had to hold the fort in the Ning family. Furthermore, other than the elders who had returned from the godly mainland with Leng Ruoxue, the other elders were not aware of this. The reason why he did not tell them was to ensure the safety of Leng Ruoxue and the others. You guys have to be careful too. Leng Ruoxue reminded. We will. Little girl, there's something, the second elder wanted to say something but stopped halfway. He looked at Leng Ruoxue carefully. Seeing the second elder's expression, Leng Ruoxue laughed to herself. Second elder, if you have anything to say, say it. Why are you hemming and hawing? Miss Leng. Third elder left home last night. The second elder said after hesitating for a moment. Oh. Leng Ruoxue replied indifferently and did not have any other reaction. That's it. The second elder looked at Leng Ruoxue's calm reaction and stared at her in disbelief. He thought to himself, this little girl is too calm. She didn't even ask me where the third elder is going. In reality, he did not know what Leng Ruoxue was thinking. In Leng Ruoxue's heart, third elder had nothing to do with her, so she could go wherever she wanted. What did it have to do with her? She wouldn't ask about unimportant people and things, so her reaction was so calm. Little girl, if you see him, please take care of him. Although he was surprised, the second elder was stunned for a moment before he spoke his true thoughts. Second elder. The third elder was a reverent god. You're asking a puny deity like me to take care of a reverent god? If this gets out, where would the third elder put his face? Leng Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. Hee. Isn't it normal to take care of each other when we're outside? The second elder said disapprovingly, but he couldn't help but feel disgusted in his heart. You're indeed a puny deity, but which deity has as many tricks as you? Which deity would dare to look down on a reverent god? Even though Leng Ruoxue's abilities weren't high, she was able to create something as abnormal as the fantasy sky and was determined to go to the mystic realm to investigate. He guessed that Leng Ruoxue must have a way to save her life. Otherwise, with this little girl's slyness, how could she be so overconfident? Chapter 17:10, The Mysterious Shadow, 2, Alright then. Since this is second elder's request, then I'll do second elder a favor. As long as I meet him, I'll definitely take care of him. However, if he doesn't appreciate it, then don't blame me. Leng Ruoxue said the ugly words first to avoid any hidden complaints later on. N. The second elder nodded helplessly. He was very clear about the third elder's temper. Hence, he also knew that Leng Ruoxue's words were not alarmist talk. The third elder might really not appreciate it. The only thing he could do now was to hope that third elder would not be so stubborn and not have too much prejudice against Leng Ruoxue. Second elder, if there's nothing else, we'll be leaving. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Then, she could not help but remind him, you have to be careful in the Ning family. Little girl, don't worry. Well, be careful. The second elder promised. Then, he led the other elders to personally send Leng Ruoxue to the main residence and watch them leave. Initially, he had wanted to send a few members of the Ning family to be Leng Ruoxue's guides. However, Leng Ruoxue had rejected his offer. In her words, she only needed the map and did not need any guides. Actually, the reason why Leng Ruoxue rejected the offer was that it was not convenient to bring the Ning family along. After all, if there were outsiders around, they would not be able to enter and exit the bracelet as they pleased. Half a month later, Leng Ruoxue and the rest flew non-stop day and night. Finally, they arrived at the city closest to the endless ocean, 10,000 Maple City. The reason why this place was called 10,000 Maple City was said to be because there was a large number of maple leaves here, hence the name. Along the way, in order to get to the endless sea as soon as possible, they ate and slept in the open, day and night in the city. Finally, they arrived at the only way to the endless sea, 10,000 Maple City. 10,000 Maple City wasn't big, and there weren't many people inside. They randomly found a hotel and prepared to rest for a while before continuing their journey. The journey from 10,000 Maple City to the endless sea was less than 2 days. Therefore, they decided to rest here for 2 days before heading to the endless sea. However, on the second day of their arrival at 1000 Maple City, they ran into Ning Haolan and Qing Xian, who were following closely behind them. Leng Ruoxue's head started to hurt when she saw them. Why are these two here? Weren't they supposed to be in their respective families? After all, as the young masters of the family, it was time for them to perform well. However, these two people had followed them and also arrived at 10,000 Maple City. She didn't need to ask to know that these two people definitely wanted to go to the endless sea. Looking at Leng Ruoxue's furrowed brows, Qing Xian didn't need to guess to know that the two of them, uninvited guests, had been despised. Great aunt. Qing Xian's handsome face was bitter, and he said in a soft voice with a slight grievance. What are you doing here instead of staying at home? Leng Ruoxue gritted her teeth. We're here to help. Qing Xian said, a little embarrassed. Thanks, help. What can you do to help? Leng Ruoxue raised her brows and asked, but she couldn't help but feel disgusted in her heart. Could he be here to make things worse? She really didn't have high hopes for these two guys. In fact, the reason why she hadn't caught up with Ning Yan and the others on this trip to the Ning residence was not only because she was pressed for time, but also because she was afraid that someone would insist on following her when she left. As a result, she had simply shut herself in and refused to see anyone. She didn't even let Qing Xian, who had returned with her from the godly mainland, live in Ning Ziyuan. Instead, she had driven him to the old place where he had come to the Ning residence, which was Ning Haolan's residence. However, she was now a little skeptical about her decision back then. There are many things we can help with, great aunt. Please don't look down on us, okay? Qing Xian said, feeling wronged. Oh, really? Then can I ask if you can wash clothes or cook? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. When Grape heard her young miss question, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. She thought to herself, young miss is too cute. How could these two young masters do such a thing? Oh. No, he should know how to cook. Otherwise, if he didn't even know how to cook, he would starve to death when he went out for experience. Ignoring Grape's laughter, Qing Xian and Ning Haolan's eyes widened in disbelief when they heard Leng Ruoxu's words. Could it be that in Leng Ruoxu's heart, they could only do laundry and cook? Did they not have any other use? This fact hurt the pride of the two prideful children. Well, we know how to cook, Qing Xian said, unconvinced. However, his voice was pitifully soft when he said this, and it was obvious that he was feeling guilty. Oh. Then, is the food that you guys make good? Leng Ruoxue continued to ask. I won't starve to death, Qing Xian said. The food they made was definitely not as good as Leng Ruoxue's. In short, it would fill their stomachs. You won't starve to death? Are your requirements for food so low? How can you abuse yourself when you're outside? Leng Ruoxue criticized in dissatisfaction. We didn't want to do that either, but we're all alone out there, so we can't have such high expectations. So, well, be satisfied as long as we don't starve to death, Qing Xian quickly said. In fact, he rarely ate when he went out. If he was really hungry, he would just find a city nearby and eat to his heart's content. Such low requirements. You don't meet my standards, so you should go home. Leng Ruoxue chased him away impolitely. Great aunt. We're already here, don't be like this. Seeing that he was about to be driven away, Qing Xian could not help but plead pitifully. He never dreamed that such an excuse could be used to drive people away. This was too far-fetched. I didn't ask you to come. Go home. Leng Ruoxue waved her hand impatiently on purpose. She did not want these two guys to follow her into the mystic realm. Otherwise, if something were to happen, wouldn't the Ning and Qing family be in even more chaos? Great aunt. We won't go back. If you don't let us follow you, then we'll go by ourselves, Qing Xian said disapprovingly. Are you threatening me? Leng Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and glared at Qing Xian with slight displeasure. It seemed like this fellow had really gotten close to her. He even dared to threaten her. This isn't a threat, it's a fact. We were originally going to the Endless Sea, and now that we've met, and we're acquaintances, we naturally have to go together. However, if you don't welcome us, then we'll just go on our own. Qing Xian smiled calmly. However, the smug expression on his face made Leng Ruoxue feel like she was asking for a beating. Forget it. You guys should come with us. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and said helplessly. She could tell that this fellow had her in the palm of his hand. He knew that she wouldn't ignore them. This was the truth. She would only be more at ease if she kept these two fellows by her side. Otherwise, if something happened to them in the mystic realm, she wouldn't be able to explain it to her godfather and the Qing clan head. She would also feel guilty. Chapter 1711, The Mysterious Shadow, 3, Great Aunt. Thank you so much. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's agreement, Qing Xian was very satisfied. Don't thank me yet, I'm not done yet. Since you're coming with us, then whether it's on the road or in the secret realm, you have to listen to me. You're not allowed to doubt my words, can you do that? If you can't do it, then go back as soon as possible. Leng Ruoxue reminded. I can. We can do it. I'll listen to your orders, Qing Xian quickly said. That's good. You guys can go back to your rooms and rest. We'll set off tomorrow morning, Leng Ruoxue ordered. Yes, yes. Qing Xian and Ning Haolan nodded. They had been chasing after Leng Ruoxue and the others all this time. They had finally caught up with them after days and nights of non-stop traveling. Now that they thought about it, they were indeed quite tired and needed a good rest. At this thought, the two of them immediately returned to their room. The next day, Leng Ruoxue and the rest continued on their journey. They finally arrived at the Endless Sea in the afternoon. The endless ocean, as its name suggested, was unusually wide and had magnificent waves. The endless ocean was dark green in color, and waves would rise from time to time. At this time, the endless sea seemed calm, but under this calm sea, it was unknown what kind of danger was hidden. Standing on the shore of the endless ocean, Len Ruoxue took the little dolphin out of her bracelet. The moment the little dolphin smelled the aura of the endless ocean, it immediately transformed into its original form and jumped into the ocean, swimming around happily. When it was close enough to the endless ocean, it jumped onto the shore and transformed into a stunningly beautiful man, standing beside Len Ruoxue. "Master. This is my home," Dolphin said happily. Why is the water here dark green?" Len Ruoxue asked curiously. In her memory, even if the color of the sea water was very dark, it would at most be dark blue. However, the sea water here was so different. Hee. "Master. The sea water here is dark green because there is a type of dark green aquatic grass growing on the seabed. Therefore, the sea water is dark green on the surface, but it is still blue when you reach the bottom of the sea." Dolphin number 1 explained. "I see." Len Ruoxue nodded her head after she was clear of the situation. "Great aunt. This dolphin is your beastie? What's wrong?" Qing Xian's eyes had been wide open ever since the beautiful dolphin man appeared, and he finally couldn't help but ask. "Aren't you talking nonsense? If beastie isn't master, would I call her master?" Before Len Ruoxue could say anything, the dolphin-like man was already unhappy and said in an unpleasant tone. "Ah." The dolphin's pretty boy's words made Qing Xian depressed. Was he talking nonsense? He didn't think so. Seeing the depressed expression on Qing Xian's face, Len Ruoxue was already laughing in her heart. However, she still glared at the dolphin-like handsome man without batting an eyelid, in case he became more and more unruly in the future. After all, Qing Xian was the young master of the Qing family and also her friend. She had to give him some face. "Master. I'm going to find my old brothers, you guys wait for me here." The beautiful dolphin saw that Len Ruoxue seemed a little unhappy and was afraid that she would punish him. He quickly found an excuse to jump back into the sea. "Great aunt. I just didn't expect you to take in a sea beast," Qing Xian explained uneasily after the beautiful dolphin left. He was really too surprised. It should be known that in the divine realm, almost no one would accept a divine beast from the sea as a beast pet. Although they were invincible in the sea, their masters would not live at the bottom of the sea for their entire lives. Therefore, basically, no one would be willing to waste a beast pet slot to accept a sea beast. After all, there was a limit to the number of beast pets they could accept. Of course, he would never have thought that Len Ruoxue did not have such a restriction. This was just an accident, Len Ruoxue said helplessly. Her decision to take in that dolphin was indeed a little dramatic, and she had almost gotten into some trouble because of it. However, it was a good thing that all the trouble had been settled. "I knew it." Realization dawned on Qing Xian. In his eyes, Len Ruoxue was a cunning little fox. For a fox to keep a sea beast that was not of much use on land, there was no other explanation other than an accident. "Miss. We caught some fresh fish, let's roast them for dinner." At this moment, Grape ran over and suggested. "Thanks, all right," he said. Len Ruoxue smiled and nodded. Then, she found a large green rock and sat down. At night, Grape and the others, who had been busy the entire afternoon, were ready to roast the fish. At this moment, a strong gust of wind blew across the sea. Following that, a huge black shadow emerged from the sea. A pair of green eyes stared at Len Ruoxue and the rest as if they were looking at prey. Their eyes were filled with greed and hostility. Heavens! What kind of monster is this? When Lu Tao saw the huge black shadow, she was shocked. Moreover, the surface of the sea was even darker than it had been in the afternoon. Therefore, apart from the pair of green eyes, they could not see the true face of the huge monster. "Green Peach. Don't be afraid. I'll protect you. Fengde, who was standing beside Green Peach, said very considerately. This was a good opportunity for the hero to save the beauty. Although the beauty didn't need him to save her, his heart was still there. Hee hee. Green Peach would definitely be touched. Miss said that it's better to rely on yourself than on others. I can protect myself. You should be careful too. Lu Tao reminded. Then you protect me. Fengde said shamelessly. He was a little disappointed when Green Peach said that he didn't need to protect her. In that case, they might as well change seats. Hee hee. You're a man. Lu Tao clenched her beautiful face and said through gritted teeth. Isn't it obvious? However, if you want to be sure, I don't mind. Fengde said with a smile. You shut up. Lu Tao's beautiful face was dyed with a touch of shyness, and after receiving everyone's teasing gazes, she really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Woo! This man was acting coquettishly with her in front of everyone, he was really too much. However, after Fengde's interference, the originally tense atmosphere also relaxed. At this time, the huge black shadow on the surface of the sea was only surprised when everyone first saw it. After that, they actually ignored it. This fact had seriously hurt its self-esteem. Fuck. Why were these despicable humans not afraid of it? Was it not scary? At the thought of this, it let out 2 whimpers on purpose to intimidate Leng Ruoxue and the others. However, it had clearly underestimated the mental endurance of Leng Ruoxue and the others. They only glanced at it once and did not bother with it. Despicable humans. How dare you? How dare you come to my territory and cause trouble? Seeing that Leng Ruoxue and the rest were ignoring it, the huge black shadow's pride was hurt. It could only reprimand them. Its rough voice had a slight tremble to it. When Leng Ruoxue heard it, she laughed in her heart. Where did this beastie, who was a fox exploiting a tiger's might, come from? He was obviously very scared, but he still pretended to be fierce to scare them. Sigh. This was clearly the behavior of a child. Did we cause any trouble? When Leng Ruoxue heard the words of the huge black figure, she turned around and asked the people around her. No, I didn't. We haven't even started to cause trouble. Fengde replied with a smile. Hey! Big guy, did you hear that? We haven't even started to cause trouble. Leng Ruoxue laughed. How audacious. You guys stole so much of my food, and you still dare to say you didn't cause trouble. The huge black figure was obviously very dissatisfied with Leng Ruoxue's words. It roared with a hoarse voice. The moment the roar was heard, huge waves immediately rose up from the sea and pounced towards Leng Ruoxue and the others. Leng Ruoxue and the rest dodged nimbly. Looking at the huge black shadow that was hiding its head and revealing its tail, everyone thought to themselves, is it preparing to fight? Big guy, just talk properly. Why are you playing with water? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be unhappy. Playing with water? I know how to play with water. What's with your eyes? That's clearly my pressure. The huge black shadow roared in anger. Fuck. Its pressure was actually treated as playing with water by others. It was really intolerable. Pressure. If that's really your pressure, then your abilities aren't that great. Fengde said with a look of disdain. Nonsense. I'm the overlord of this area. In this area, no human or beast dared to speak to this lord like this. Humans. You'll be punished by me. The huge black shadow roared angrily, but in his heart, he was thinking about how to deal with these humans. There were too many of them, what was it going to do? Oh, really? I'll wait and see. Fengde didn't take the words of the huge black shadow seriously. In his opinion, if this guy was really a powerful sea beast, he would have attacked long ago. Why would he talk so much nonsense with them? Therefore, he did not take its threat to heart at all. Just you wait. You will regret this. After the huge black shadow finished speaking, it dived back to the bottom of the sea with a loud thunder and a small drizzle. Fengde and the others couldn't react for a long time because of its retreat. Why did it just leave? They were dumbfounded. It shouldn't be like this, right? Chapter 17:12, A Mistake. 1. When Fengde and the others came back to their senses, the sea had returned to its calm state. However, this fact made them quite depressed. They had not yet figured out what kind of monster the Black Shadow was. The Black Shadow had actually dived back to the bottom of the sea, which made them feel like they had punched cotton. They thought that they could have a big fight, but who knew that it would end so silently? Although this little episode made Fengde and the others, who loved to fight, feel a little depressed, it did not affect their mood too much. After the Black Shadow disappeared, they continued to eat dinner. After dinner, Len Ruoxue took out the house and everyone went in, ready to have a good night's rest. However, in the middle of the night, they were suddenly hit by a "kacha" sound. Kacha! Awoken by the noise. The group walked out of the room and gathered in the garden. Through a screen of light in the garden, Len Ruoxue and the others were shocked to find that they were surrounded by a group of crabs the size of millstones and giant prawns waving their large pincers. Many crabs had even climbed up to the roof and were trying to enter the house from above. Miss! The crabs and prawns were so big. We're in for a treat this time. Fengde's eyes lit up when he saw those huge objects. In his eyes, these things were simply delicious food delivered to his door. It would be a waste not to eat it. Hee hee. It's been a long time since I've eaten these things, I really want to eat them. Lin Yuan also said. Although there were a lot of crabs and prawns in the mist space, they had a large number of people, so they usually didn't dare to eat too much. It should be known that those things were quite rare whether it was on the Sharp Wind continent or the Haotian continent. They couldn't bear to eat them, and it was even more impossible for them to go into the sea to catch them. After all, there were many fierce beasts in the sea. If they were careless, they would lose their lives. But this time, these things came to them on their own initiative. They naturally wouldn't be polite. Seeing the excitement on their faces and hearing their conversation, Qing Xian could not help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself, could it be that these people want to eat these things? Although he was from the divine world, he had never eaten these armored monsters before. Moreover, he did not think that these things that were tied to him were worth eating. However, looking at the expressions of Fengde and the others, they seemed to be quite excited. What was going on? He was very curious, and his heart felt as if there was a cat scratching it. You guys want to eat these iron-armored monsters? Qing Xian could not help but ask. Yup. This is good stuff. As Fengde spoke, a trace of nostalgia appeared on his face. No one in the divine realm would eat these things. Are you sure they can be eaten? Qing Xian said in disbelief. Of course they can be eaten. They're all delicious. Fengde looked at Qing Xian as if he was a monster, as if he had said something he shouldn't have. Fengde's incredulous look also made Qing Xian's face burn. I haven't eaten it. Qing Xian's face reddened as he spoke in embarrassment. However, he couldn't help but wonder why he was embarrassed. It's not embarrassing if you haven't eaten it before, right? AI. You guys don't have the good fortune to eat. Fengde looked at Qing Xian with sympathy. Ah. Receiving Fengde's sympathetic gaze, Qing Xian was depressed. It seemed that it was a little embarrassing to not have eaten it. Hee hee. It's not very popular for people in the divine realm to eat these things. Seeing Qing Xian's awkwardness, Ning Haolan tried to smooth things over. The truth was, he had never eaten it before, so he had to stand on the same side as Qing Xian at this point. Otherwise, Qing Xian would not be the only one who would be pitted. Yes, yes. Qing Xian nodded repeatedly at Ning Haolan's words. Hee hee. Don't worry, you'll have a good meal in a while. Fengde patted their shoulders and comforted them. Thanks then, he turned to look at Len Ruoxue, Miss. When are we going out to catch crabs? Are you sure you're going out to catch crabs and not be eaten by these crabs? Leng Ruoxue looked at the increasing number of large crabs and teased with a faint smile. Miss, how can we be eaten by them? If we have to eat, we should be the ones eating them. Feng De corrected him. Oh. Then you guys go out and catch them. Leng Ruoxue nodded. After getting Leng Ruoxue's approval, Feng De and the rest did not want to waste any more time. They immediately opened the door and walked out. However, as soon as he stepped out of the house, Feng De felt that he had stepped on something soft. Then, his foot seemed to be clamped by something, and he couldn't help but scream in pain, "Arg! My foot!" When everyone heard Feng De's cry, they lowered their heads in unison, only to find that there was a huge clam between Feng De's feet. The clam was a meter in diameter, and under the moonlight, its shell was a faint pink color. At this time, its two extremely hard shells were tightly clamping Feng De's feet, and the shell was slowly closing. Damn it! Quickly help me get it down. Feng De grimaced in pain and kept swinging his legs, but he couldn't get rid of the giant clam that was closing in. When Lin Yuan and the others saw this, they quickly squatted down to help. A few of them grabbed the two shells of the giant clam and tried to break it open. However, the giant clam did not move at all. No matter how hard they tried, it refused to let go of its shell. Miss! Save me! Help me! Feng De, who was in so much pain that he was about to faint, could only seek help from Leng Ruoxue, who was still in the house, when he saw that Lin Yuan and the rest were helpless. When they heard the voice, Leng Ruoxue and the demon walked out from inside with smiles on their faces. What is this? How many crabs have you caught? Leng Ruoxue raised her beautiful eyes and glanced at the giant crab that was glaring at them. She asked calmly. Miss. Not a single one was caught. My foot is caught by a clam, Wu, Feng De sobbed with an aggrieved expression. He could tell that the young lady had come out to see him make a fool of himself. You're too careless. Why didn't you look at your feet when you were walking? As expected, Leng Ruoxue reproached. However, she still had a smile on her face. I didn't notice. Miss. Please help me get rid of this thing. It hurts so much. Feng De pleaded. Woo. This bad-hearted young lady really has no sympathy. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. It's not easy to get rid of this thing. Besides, the more we want to get rid of it, the more it will clamp onto us for self-protection. Why don't you take it with you for the time being? Leng Ruoxue suggested as she looked down at the giant clam. Miss. Don't. How can I bring it along, miss? You must have a way. Feng De was so anxious that he was about to cry. Moreover, the place where he was clamped by the giant clam was also in excruciating pain. He was about to break out in cold sweat. I really don't have any good ideas. Unless you don't want this leg anymore. Leng Ruoxue teased Feng De. Chapter 17:13, Mistake, 2, This won't do. I can't lose my leg. Feng De said anxiously when he heard this. At that moment, everyone present could tell that the young Miss Bad Taste was back. She was just teasing Feng De. Therefore, they were all smart enough to keep silent. Young Miss, Feng De looked at Leng Ruoxue with resentment. His little face was as pitiful as it could get, and his pitiful look greatly pleased Leng Ruoxue. Ai. Seeing how pitiful you are, I'll think of a way. Leng Ruoxue sighed and pretended to be in a difficult position. Many thanks, miss. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Feng De could finally relax. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue squatted down and stretched out her index finger. She bent it and knocked on the clamshell lightly. She then said with certainty, there must be someone at home. Qing Xian and Ning Haolan's faces darkened at her words. What did she mean by that? What did he mean by there's someone at home? So what if there were people? So what if there were no people? Was she going to get someone to open the door for her? The two of them let their thoughts run wild, but the next second, their guess was confirmed. I know you're at home. Open the door now, or else you won't be able to keep these two doors. Len Ruoxiu threatened. At this moment, the clam that was hiding in its shell did not dare to make any rash moves. This was because it could instinctively sense how terrifying this woman was. Although its strength was not high, its natural instincts were not wrong. Hence, the timid clam could only hide its head and not dare to show itself. After waiting for a while, Len Ruoxiu saw that the mussel did not respond and was a little angry. In an instant, a small dark purple flame jumped on her white and tender fingertips. The temperature of the flame was extremely high, causing Lin Yuan and the others to take a big step back to avoid being roasted by the flame. The moment Len Ruoxiu's flame appeared, the giant clam, which had been silent, started to tremble uncontrollably. Water vapor started to evaporate from its body. In an instant, the giant clam felt as if its body was on fire and it started to tremble even more. Little clam. Do you want to be roasted by me, or do you want to open the door? Len Ruoxiu slowly moved the flame on her fingertips closer to the giant clam's body, giving it two choices. However, as soon as she finished her sentence, the giant clam quickly opened its two shells and jumped into the sea as if it was running for its life. The giant clam was still frightened and refused to come out. What a pity. I thought I would be able to eat delicious clam meat. Len Ruoxiu looked at the back of the giant clam and said with regret. Great Aunt. Is there anything in this world that you don't dare to eat? Qing Xian couldn't help but ask. Of course. Len Ruoxiu nodded with a smile. What? Qing Xian asked curiously. I'm not telling you. Len Ruoxiu laughed evilly. There were many things in this world that she didn't eat. Great Aunt. You're a bad person. Qing Xian pouted and said in a slightly coquettish manner. Thanks, I've never said that I'm a good person. Len Ruoxiu said with a smile. Then, she stood up and looked at the cancer that was right in front of her. Since the mussel has run away, I can only have you as my supper tonight. With that, Len Ruoxiu walked towards the giant crab. When the giant crabs and giant prawns with low spiritual intelligence saw Len Ruoxiu approaching, they all instinctively retreated. This was because both Len Ruoxiu and the small flame in her hand made them feel fear. Seeing that they were about to retreat into the sea, Len Ruoxiu stopped in her tracks and said, Don't be afraid, I won't mistreat you. I'll give you a quick death. These words made the giant crabs and prawns run even faster. They ran for their lives in all directions without a care. For a moment, it was a mess. In the process of running away, many crabs and prawns bumped into each other. Some directly fainted, and some had broken a few arms and legs. In short, the situation could only be described as chaotic. The crowd stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. They were filled with admiration for Len Ruoxiu and could not help but think in their hearts, as expected of our family's young miss. This power was extraordinary. He hadn't even made a move. Those shrimp soldiers and crab generals threw away their helmets and armors and fled in all directions. However, in this way, wouldn't they lose their delicious taste? At the thought of this, Feng De and the others became anxious and shouted, Miss! Don't let them run away. At the same time, it pounced on those shrimps and crabs. Ah! Seeing this, Qing Xian rubbed his eyes and thought to himself, are those things really that attractive? He had actually caused Feng De and the others to go so crazy. Out of curiosity, he and Ning Haolan also charged into the battlefield. After a battle of chasing and hiding, Feng De and the others had a good harvest. They saw a small mountain of shrimp and crabs piled in front of their house. Seeing these fresh seafood, they couldn't wait any longer. They directly started a fire and roasted it over the fire with a wooden stick. Not long after, a fresh smell emerged from the shrimp and crab that were being roasted over the fire. After smelling it, Qing Xian couldn't help but take a few deep breaths. This smell was indeed delicious. He just didn't know what it would taste like. He was looking forward to it. However, after the prawns and crabs were roasted, Qing Xian didn't rush to eat them. Instead, he carefully observed Feng De and the others' appearances and started to learn. When the first mouthful of crab meat entered his stomach, Qing Xian could not help but close his eyes and chew with a satisfied expression. The delicious taste floated in his mouth, leaving him with an endless aftertaste. However, when he opened his eyes and saw that Feng De and the others had each destroyed a giant crab, he couldn't help but feel a little anxious. He didn't care about the aftertaste and quickly ate it. While eating, he took a freshly roasted giant crab and placed it in front of him to show his ownership. Leng Ruoxue chuckled to herself when she saw how protective Qing Xian was of his food. She did not expect Qing Xian to have such a cute side to him. However, she was surprised by Ning Haolan's actions because he had learned from Qing Xian. When he saw her surprised look, he did not feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he was even more at ease. Seeing this scene, Leng Ruoxue sighed from the bottom of her heart. Young Master Ning's heart was still the best. Everyone was eating the supper excitedly. However, just as they were eating happily, a discordant roar sounded in their ears. Bold human! You actually dared to eat my subordinates! A hoarse voice rang out in the dark night. When everyone heard this voice, they didn't even raise their heads and continued to eat the food in their hands. Human! I'm talking to you. Don't ignore this lord's existence, alright? Seeing that no one was paying attention to it, the owner of the voice, the giant monster, could not help but roar again. Then what do you want? A fellow who doesn't even dare to show his face, do you expect us to treat you with courtesy? Leng Ruoxue raised her head and smiled calmly. Chapter 1714, A Mistake, 3. In fact, she had long guessed that those shrimps and crabs were related to this monster. Now, she had finally confirmed it. They were indeed its people. You ate my subordinate. You have to give me an explanation. The giant monster roared. Tape? What do you want tape for? Are you trying to shut your mouth? Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly, deliberately twisting its words. Despicable humans. You did it on purpose. The huge monster understood the meaning behind Leng Ruoxue's words and said angrily. I did it on purpose, what can you do to me? Leng Ruoxue said nonchalantly and continued to provoke it. Miss. It doesn't even dare to show its head, what can it do to us? It doesn't even dare to come up, so why waste our saliva talking nonsense with it? Feng De suggested. Let's ignore it and continue eating. Leng Ruoxue nodded her head in agreement. Don't eat it. You're not allowed to eat my subordinates. The huge monster roared in anger. However, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were unmoved. They continued to lower their heads and eat the delicacies in their hands. Following that, they heard a kacha. With a loud kacha sound, everyone saw a huge black shadow from the corner of their eyes. It dived out of the sea and came ashore. Then, it quickly ran in their direction. Leng Ruoxue and the others laughed in their hearts when they saw this. This idiot had finally taken the bait. When the black shadow ran in, Leng Ruoxue and the others finally saw its true appearance. It was an extremely huge crab with a diameter of 10 meters and a height of 2 meters. It was wearing a black armor that was shining with a faint light. Furthermore, this crab had the strength of a divine lord. When the crab saw that Leng Ruoxue and the others were stepping on the shells of its underlings, anger rose from its heart. Its pitch black, glossy, and extremely hard shell seemed to be burning with flames, shining with a pink glow. Seeing it like this, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but recall a classic advertisement from her previous life. Have you been cooked? I want to take revenge for my subordinates. The large crab said viciously. Its pair of searchlight-like eyes stared at Leng Ruoxue and the rest as if it was staring at its prey. Big crab, I can understand how you feel. However, you only have the strength of a monarch god-level cultivator. There are so many of us here. Are you sure you can defeat us? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she reminded him. I won't let you off. The large crab stammered and did not answer Leng Ruoxia's question directly. In fact, it was afraid that it could not defeat them, so it did not attack. Instead, it went back and found a group of its underlings. Who knew that those underlings were so useless? Before they could attack, they were killed, injured, and many of them became food for the humans. This fact made it extremely furious. However, don't be fooled by its fierce appearance. In reality, it was very timid. However, this time, it had no choice but to stand out. Otherwise, where would it put its face in the endless ocean in the future? How could it convince the masses? What do you want to do to us? Leng Ruoxue was very curious. I want to take revenge for my subordinate. The large crab roared. You've said this before. Tell me the details. Leng Ruoxue reminded him impatiently. The details, the big crab was confused. It didn't know. What could it say? AI. You're so stupid. The specific thing is nothing more than how you want to avenge your subordinate. You have to come up with a plan to deal with us. You can't just come here on a whim like you are now. You're not here for revenge, you're here to give us food. Feng De couldn't help but say in a sincere tone when he saw the big crab's dumbfounded expression. Upon hearing Feng De's words, the big crab suddenly raised his head and looked at Feng De with teary eyes. As if he had found a soulmate, he choked and said, "Human. You really are a good person. You're actually so considerate of me." It was very touched. After living for so long, it had been afraid of being eaten by the enemy every day. It didn't expect that there was still someone in this world who cared about it so much. Ugh! What was this situation? Seeing the big crab's inexplicable excitement, Feng De was a little dumbfounded. He didn't seem to have said anything that shouldn't be said, right? Why did the crab look like it was going to give itself to him? The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Not only him, but the others were also speechless when they saw this scene. Moreover, they had a common question in their hearts. What was this big crab trying to do? However, they soon found out. The big crab looked shy, and his cold eyes looked at Feng De with affection. Then, he said, "Human. You're so good, I'm really moved. I've decided, I'm going to give my body to you." The big crab's words made Feng De jump in shock. Fuck. This crab was going to repay him with his body just because he said so. This was really too terrifying. Don't be impulsive. I'm not a good person. It's true. Feng De wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said hurriedly. You're a good person. I've lived for so long, but I've never met a human who's so considerate of me. So, you can't reject me. The big crab was determined to get Feng De, and it said very stubbornly. But I'm not interested in you. Besides, I already have someone I like. So, I can only disappoint your good intentions. Feng De was so anxious that he broke out in a cold sweat. He couldn't help but look towards Leng Ruoxue and the others for help. However, he was ignored by the crowd who wanted to see him make a fool of himself. Interest can be cultivated. I believe that with my charm, you will accept me one day. The big crab suddenly became confident. To be honest, my favorite food is crabs, so in my eyes, you are food. No one will like food. Trust me. Feng De tried to persuade him. Thanks, you can't eat mine. The big crab blinked its eyes and said innocently. That's hard to say. If I'm hungry one day, I might just treat you as a dish to go with wine. Would you still dare to like me then? Feng De threatened. Feng De's words made the big crab stare at him for a long time without saying a word. However, just when Feng De thought that the big crab had given up, the big crab said, I'm not scared. You can't scare me. What do you want? Feng De was speechless. Why was this crab so insistent on him? I said I want to repay you with my body. The big crab said with certainty. Like I said, I already have someone I like. Feng De also said. So what? I won't fight with her. The big crab said disapprovingly. That. Being a third party will be despised by others. At this time, Lu Tao couldn't help but say. She originally wanted to stay out of this world, but she couldn't resist Feng De's pleading gaze, so she had to speak. What's a third party? And who are you? The big crab asked curiously. She's the woman I like. The mistress is the one who forced herself between us. I'm a human, and I like humans. You're just food in my eyes, so I'll never like you. Feng De couldn't take it anymore and roared. After Feng De finished shouting, the big crab looked at him in a daze, then continued, if you like her, then so be it. There's no conflict with me offering my body to you. She's a human and can't be your beastie, but I can. After he finished speaking, he even looked at Green Peach with a slightly provocative look. Beastie? Feng De blinked his eyes. Did he hear it wrong? This big crab was talking about beastie. Could it be that he wanted to be his beastie? You want to be my beastie? Feng De asked again with uncertainty. You're a good person, I like you. So, I want to be your beastie. The big crab said shyly. After hearing the crab's affirmative answer, Leng Ruoxue and the rest could not help but lower their heads and laugh. After all this crab only wanted to be Feng De's beastie. In the end, it caused them to misunderstand and caused Feng De to make a huge mistake. If you want to be a beastie, why don't you just say it clearly? Why are you even offering yourself to me? Are you trying to scare me to death? Feng De's face was hot. Fuck. This was a huge loss of face. Isn't being a beastie the same as repaying with your body? From now on, I'm yours. The big crab said matter-of-factly. If you don't know how to use words, then don't use them. How can that be the same? Feng De was very angry, and the crowd couldn't help but laugh loudly when they heard their conversation. Ha ha ha. Captain, you guys are too funny. Lin Yuan laughed, and he laughed the most exaggeratedly. He laughed so hard that his stomach hurt, and he was just short of rolling on the ground. What are you laughing at? If you laugh again, I'll throw you into the sea to feed the crabs. Feng De roared in anger. Master. Crabs love aquatic grass, not humans. The big crab corrected him with a serious expression. After Lin Yuan and the rest heard this, they laughed even louder. You shut up. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Feng De was furious. Master. I'm telling the truth. The big crab felt very wronged. Don't call me master. I didn't agree to take you in. Feng De was about to go crazy. Master. I've decided on you, you can't abandon me. The big crab stretched out its two huge pincers and hugged Feng De's thigh tightly as it sobbed. Damn it. Quickly let go of me. Feng De ordered. Not letting go. Don't let go. I won't let go even if I die. The big crab hugged him tighter and tighter, so that Feng De would not shake him off. Just like that, the man and the crab began to tug at each other, forming a tug-of-war. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue shook her head helplessly and sighed in her heart. How did things turn out like this? If she didn't remember wrongly, this big crab was here for revenge, but now it had found a master for itself. Was there anything more dramatic than this in the world? Chapter 1715, Human. Leave quickly. 1. Leng Ruoxue sighed softly. She ignored the man and the crab's tugging and pulling and immediately brought the demon back to her room. The next morning, when they came out of the room and saw the unconcealed smiles on everyone's faces, suspicion rose in their hearts. After they left last night, did something happen that they didn't know about? Miss. Feng De took that big crab last night. Seeing Leng Ruoxue's confusion, Grape hurriedly explained. Oh. Isn't it normal to take in a beastie? However, your expressions are very abnormal. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Hee hee. Miss, you'll know when they come out. Grape said mysteriously, the smile on her beautiful face hard to hide. Seeing that the grapes were keeping her in suspense, Leng Ruoxue didn't probe further and just waited patiently. Fortunately, Feng De didn't make her wait too long. After a while, he walked out of the room with a dark face. But what was that black thing on Feng De's head? Leng Ruoxue silently wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. In her heart, she couldn't help but feel disgusted by Feng De's new style. If this was in the world of her previous life, Feng De's style would definitely not be mainstream. He saw a black crab slightly bigger than an adult's fist on Feng De's head, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It was obvious that this was the giant crab's appearance after it mimicked him yesterday. But why did he bring this crab on his head? Could it be that he thought that he looked good like this and wanted to change his image? Just as Leng Ruoxue was feeling puzzled, Grape and the rest could not help but turn around and snicker. Feng De's face was dark as he went up to Leng Ruoxue and pleaded, "Miss. This damn crab just wants to stay on my head, please help me." "How do you want me to help you?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a face full of curiosity. She laughed in her heart. She knew Feng De wouldn't be like this. So it was because the crab had chosen this position, Could she say that this crab had good taste? The view there was really good. "Help me persuade it to come down," Feng De begged. "Feng De. I heard that this crab has already recognized you as its master. Since you're its master, you can order it to come down from your head. You don't need me at all. Moreover, compared to you, I'm just an outsider to it. How could it listen to me?" Leng Ruoxue reminded. It seemed like Feng De had been so angered by this crab that he had lost his mind. Otherwise, why would he not know how to use his master's authority? "Miss. If only it was willing to listen to me." Feng De's face was bitter as he said helplessly. This crab was extremely stubborn. Once it had decided on something, it would go down the dark path. He didn't have the habit of mistreating his beastie. He couldn't hit it or scold it. After all, it was his beastie, and he still had to dote on it. He didn't know if it was because of this, but this little crab was not afraid of him at all. So, he could only swallow this bitter fruit. Sob. He really regretted taking in this guy in his moment of soft-heartedness. Now, it had climbed onto his head. It was truly on his head. "Even you, the master, can't do anything, so what can I do? You still have to manage your own beastie, no one else can help you," Leng Ruoxue said with a helpless expression. "Miss," Feng De deliberately dragged out his voice. His originally shrewd eyes were now glistening, and the mist in them was in danger of falling at any time. "I'm not a green peach. It's useless to act pitiful in front of me." Leng Ruoxue unreservedly exposed him. She thought to herself, if the person who acted this way in front of me was a demon, I might have taken pity on him. But it's a pity that he's not. "Thanks, miss," Feng De called out resentfully, but was ignored by Leng Ruoxue. Even though Leng Ruoxue ignored Feng De's plea, she still turned her gaze to the greenish-black crab. She smiled and asked, "Little crab, since you've acknowledged my subordinate as your master, you're one of us from now on. You have to answer my questions truthfully. MMH. If master's young lady has any questions, please ask. I promise to tell you everything I know." The little crab on Feng De's head raised one of its pincers and made a solemn vow. This was its master's master. Therefore, it definitely had to please her. Furthermore, after recognizing her as its master, it was very clear of the position this human woman had in its master's heart. Hence, its attitude towards Leng Ruoxue was extremely good. "You're a good one," Leng Ruoxue nodded in satisfaction and continued, "Little crab, do you know where the secret realm of the Endless Sea is?" "A secret realm?" The little crab furrowed his brows in a dilemma. His pair of black and bright little eyes rolled around, but in the end, he shook his head and said, "I've never heard of a secret realm here." "Are you sure?" Leng Ruoxue confirmed. She could tell that this little crab really didn't know what a mystic realm was. However, the map that seventh elder had given her should be correct. After all, this concerned the safety of Godfather and the rest. I really haven't heard of any secret realm here, but recently, the number of powerhouses in the Endless Sea has suddenly decreased by a lot. I heard that they have all gone to a mysterious place, but I don't know where that place is. The small crab said after thinking for a while. A mysterious place. Leng Ruoxue muttered to herself for a moment before realizing that the mysterious place the little crab was talking about could be the mystic realm she was looking for. The number of powerful cultivators in the Endless Ocean had suddenly decreased, so they must have gone there as well. After all, the mystic realm was on the Endless Ocean, so it was impossible for the local tyrants here to not have noticed it. However, the little crab was not sure, probably because it was not powerful enough. It seemed like the only way to find out the exact location of the mystic realm was to wait for the little dolphin to return. Master's young lady, do you want me to go back to the sea and ask around? Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was interested in that mysterious place, the little crab quickly tried to please her. All right. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Hee. Then I'll go. Master. You can't give this position to anyone else. Before the little crab left, he looked at Feng Die's head with reluctance and said worriedly. I know. Feng De replied unhappily. He could not help but feel frustrated in his heart. Other than this damned crab, no other beastie would like that position. He would not let any beastie climb over his head either. However, this crab was a different species. It was something that could make him go crazy but at his wits' end. Fortunately, it was going back to the sea. Master. I'll miss you. The little crab's eyes were brimming with tears as it said with great reluctance. Hee. Captain, I didn't think that your relationship would be so deep in just one night. Lin Yuan teased with an envious look on his face. Let's go. Feng De glared at Lin Yuan and urged. I'll be back as soon as possible, master. Don't miss me too much. After the little crab finished speaking, it climbed down from Feng Die's head and looked into his eyes. Then, with a flash of white light, it disappeared into thin air. Chapter 1716, Human. Leave quickly, too, it's such a passionate little thing. After the little crab disappeared, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh. She was also very out of line because she hadn't forgotten what this crab had come here for. However, it had only been one night, and it was already stuck to Feng De like glue. This made one couldn't help but praise Feng Die's extraordinary charm. Miss. Let's not talk about it anymore, okay? Feng De begged with a bitter face. Feng De. It's already your beastie. Even if you don't mention it, you can't change this fact, right? Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Captain. Miss is right, in fact, I also think that the little crab is not bad, it is loyal to you, and cares for you. Where else can you find such a caring beastie? Lin Yuan chuckled and echoed. If you like it so much, why didn't you take it back then? Feng De was furious as he gritted his teeth and said. I want to. It's a pity that he's interested in you. Lin Yuan's face was full of regret. However, in Feng Die's eyes, his regretful expression was a little annoying. This detestable guy was clearly just standing there and talking. Don't think that he didn't know what these people were thinking. They knew that this little crab would never acknowledge them as its master, so they were gloating over his misfortune. This was really too much. Feng De couldn't help but complain in his heart. Leng Ruoxue, who was at the side, took the breakfast from the grapes. As she ate, she watched the two of them bicker. Suddenly, a white light flashed in front of her eyes. Immediately after, the snack in her hand disappeared. In her arms, a delicate and small dolphin appeared. The snack in the dolphin's mouth was the snack that she had just held in her hand. You greedy ghost, you actually dare to snatch something from master's hands. Leng Ruoxue lowered her head and scolded him with a smile. Master. I'm hungry. The little dolphin's watery eyes looked at Leng Ruoxue without blinking. The tears in its eyes slowly flowed, as if it was waiting for its master to scold it. Aren't dolphins supposed to like to eat fish? When did you become interested in desserts? Leng Ruoxue teased. Master. As a cultivator, of course I have to be an omnivorous animal. I can't be picky about my food. The little dolphin said matter-of-factly. All right then. Omnivorous little dolphin, did you get anything back home this time? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Master. I've brought all my subordinates here. As for the secret realm, there's not much progress at the moment, but I've already left messages for my old friends. They'll naturally inform me if there's any news. The little dolphin said with certainty. Oh. Are your old friends not at home? When Leng Ruoxue heard that the little dolphin had left a message, she couldn't help but ask in understanding. To be friends with this little fellow, one's strength had to be at least above the God-King stage. Furthermore, the little crab had mentioned that the experts of the endless ocean had all gone to a mysterious place. After some thought, she guessed that the little dolphin's friends had probably gone to the secret realm. However, where in the endless ocean was that secret realm located? Thanks on the map that the seventh elder had given her, the location of the secret plane was only marked with a small red dot, and the surroundings of that small red dot basically belonged to the territory of the endless sea. Therefore, other than knowing that the secret plane was in the endless sea, she knew very little information. No, I didn't. I don't know where they went, even my friends who don't go out often aren't home. It's really strange. The little dolphin said with a bit of hesitation. It originally thought that as long as it found its friend, it would be able to know the location of the secret realm that its master wanted to go to, but who knew that it would make a wasted trip? This fact made it extremely depressed. I heard from a small crab that the masters of the endless sea have all gone to a mysterious place. However, it doesn't know where it is, so it has already gone to help us find out. Leng Ruoxue explained with a smile. Where did this little crab come from? The little dolphin was a little curious. It's our captain's new beast pet. Lin Yuan said as he held back his laughter. Oh. Congratulations, you've just arrived at the endless ocean and you've already received a beast pet. The little dolphin smiled and thought to itself, it seems that the beasts of the endless sea are quite popular. If each of Master's subordinates could take in a beast pet from the endless ocean and form an army of sea beasts, wouldn't Master be invincible in the sea? It couldn't help but daydream. However, even though it was a sudden thought, it took it to heart. Thank you, he said. Fengde said weakly, his mood quite low. Hee. It would be great if each of you could take in a beast from the endless sea. That way, it would be more convenient for you to go to the bottom of the sea in the future. The little dolphin was so happy that it spoke out its thoughts. However, Lin Yuan and the others were so scared that they broke out in a cold sweat. This is a good idea. I agree. Little Crab has a lot of shrimp soldiers and crab generals under his command. Why don't you take them as your beast pets? When Fengde heard the little dolphin's suggestion, he was immediately pumped up and agreed. Captain. Are you afraid we'll be hungry? After hearing Fengde's idea, Lin Yuan was a little speechless. This idea was good. Good, my ass. If they each received a crab or shrimp, wouldn't they become a laughing stock? It was more like those shrimp soldiers and crab generals were their food, but how could they be their beast pets? Moreover, many of those guys were not even divine beasts. Such beasts were very unsuitable for them, who had high standards. Therefore, they despised Fengde's idea of dragging them into the water. With that thought in mind, everyone looked at Fengde with contempt, which made Fengde's heart palpitate. The little dolphin, on the other hand, was shocked when it heard their conversation. Beast pets can't be eaten. Moreover, one crab is enough. There are many strong people in the endless ocean. You don't have to collect crabs. The little dolphin naively thought that they liked crabs, so it was a little worried. In fact, according to its original intention, it wanted to introduce its friends to them. As for crabs, it was fine if they didn't want them. Although there were a lot of crabs in the endless sea, it was rare to see strong people. However, there were still benefits in taking crabs as beast pets. Because crabs were social animals, taking in a leader of the crabs was equivalent to taking in a group of crabs. However, if you wanted to keep so many crabs alive, the cost would not be small. MMH. The little dolphin's words make sense. We only want to eat crabs and have no interest in taking crabs as beast pets, so one is enough for the captain. If we all take crabs as beast pets, we won't be able to eat such delicacies in the future. Lin Yuan said worriedly. You guys are too disloyal. Don't you know what it means to share good fortune and misfortune together? Feng De roared in anger. Chapter 1717, Human. Leave quickly, 3, Captain. Well, definitely think of you when we eat crabs in the future, I promise. Lin Yuan patted his chest and said. Yes, yes. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, everyone nodded. They didn't want to be like Feng De and take in a crab as a beast pet, so this time, they couldn't be in trouble with their captain. You, Feng De glared at the crowd. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. Hee hee. In the future, if there is an opportunity, I will introduce my friends to you. Their strength is at least equivalent to a human's divine king or above. So, you must not casually accept beast pets. At this moment, the little dolphin's face was filled with worry. Don't worry. Our standards are very high, and we want randomly taken beast pets. Lin Yuan quickly promised after hearing what the little dolphin said. In fact, he was not very interested in sea beasts, but a friend introduced by the little dolphin was better than beast pets such as crabs and prawns. When Feng De heard the little dolphin's words, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This dolphin was deliberately going against him, right? He was already depressed enough that he had taken in a crab. Now, this dolphin even wanted to introduce its friends to Lin Yuan and the others. It was obvious that its friends would not be small sea beasts like fish, shrimp, and crabs. Boo-hoo. Why was his life so bitter? The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. In the end, he looked at the crowd with hidden bitterness and turned to leave angrily. Ah. The captain is angry. Lin Yuan said with a smirk. Obviously, none of them took this matter to heart, and no one wanted to coax him. After breakfast, everyone went about their business. 3 days later. The little crab returned from the sea, travel-worn, but the first thing it did was to find its master. The little dolphin finally saw the legendary little crab. However, the little crab was obviously a little afraid when it saw the dolphin. In the living room. Lying on Feng De's head, the little crab peeked at the little dolphin in Leng Ruox's arms. It was so scared that its pincers were trembling. Woo! Why is this fellow here? It had never dreamed that it would see this famous demon of the endless sea here. If it had known earlier, it would not have recognized this human as its master, but it was too late to regret now. Little crab, what did you find out? Tell me the truth. The little dolphin lifted its eyelids and said calmly. Even though it was not the strongest among the beasts in the endless ocean, it had a very good reputation. This was mainly due to its cold-blooded nature. However, it had restrained itself a lot in front of Leng Ruoxue. I found it, the little crab stammered and even began to speak incoherently. Stop. Stop hemming and hawing, tell me what you found. The little dolphin interrupted the little crab impatiently. In fact, it felt that its attitude was already quite friendly, but the little thing still seemed to be a little afraid of it, which made it very angry. The little crab was very anxious. It wanted to say it quickly, but the more anxious it was, the more it couldn't say it. In its anxiety, it accidentally grabbed a strand of Feng De's hair, causing Feng De to cry out in pain. Arg! Little crab, are you trying to kill your master? Feng De couldn't take it anymore. He was very angry at this disappointing little crab. This little guy was really useless. Wasn't it just a dolphin? Was there a need to scare it like this? Master. I'm sorry. The little crab was very guilty. Moreover, it seemed to have used too much force just now and had actually pulled off a strand of its master's hair. It couldn't let its master see it, so it had to destroy the corpse quickly. Thinking of this, it quickly put the strand of hair in its claw into its storage space, ready to destroy it when it had the opportunity. When Leng Ruoxue saw little crab's actions of destroying the evidence, she was already laughing in her heart. Although this little crab's strength wasn't high, he was quite good at making them laugh. If they had such a little fellow at home, at least they wouldn't be bored. When little crab saw that his little trick had been discovered by Leng Ruoxue, he smiled at her in an attempt to please her. Then, he lowered his head guiltily, not daring to look at her. Little crab, what did you get? Leng Ruoxue knew that the little crab was afraid of the dolphin, so she had no choice but to keep the little dolphin into her bracelet. Thanks, master's young lady, in the past 3 days, I've taken my subordinates to many places and finally got accurate news. Most of the strong people in the endless ocean have indeed gone to the same mysterious place, but very few beasts know about this place. However, I heard that a strong person is currently staying at home. I don't know if he knows where that mysterious place is, but that strong person has a very strange temper. I'm afraid he won't meet you. The little crab explained worriedly. Without the dolphin around, it could speak much more easily. Where does that expert live? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Since she could find a powerful cultivator from the endless ocean, she naturally had to go and ask around. Furthermore, no matter how strange that person's temper was, she had to meet him. It lives in a trench in the deepest part of the endless sea. It's located at the bottom of the sea and is quite dangerous. We don't usually dare to go there. Moreover, this master doesn't like to communicate with people, so not many people know about his background. However, everyone knows that he has a bad temper. I remember a shark that accidentally passed by his territory and was almost killed by him. From then on, almost no sea beasts dared to go to that area. In addition, there are many natural dangers in the trenches. Therefore, that place is equivalent to a forbidden land for us. The little crab said with lingering fear. You've been there? Leng Ruoxue raised her brows and asked indifferently. No, I didn't. If I go, I'm afraid I won't be able to live. The little crab said fearfully. It didn't dare to go there. After all, it was a timid crab. Besides guarding its own territory, it rarely went out. Even so, there were often beasts who came to bully it. If it did not have so many subordinates, its territory would have been taken away long ago. Oh! Little crab, you've worked hard these past few days. Go back and rest first. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Fengde didn't even give the little crab a chance to speak before he left with it. After they left, Leng Ruoxue summoned the little dolphin. Little dolphin, you heard what that little crab said, right? Do you know the expert it's talking about? Leng Ruoxue asked directly. I've heard of it. It has a bad temper and rarely interacts with the beasts of the endless ocean. However, it is a very mysterious existence and has a very high status in the endless ocean. When I heard of it, I was still very young. The elders in my clan told me about it, and the reason for telling us was naturally to prevent us from being blind and provoking it. The little dolphin explained. What if I want to find it and ask for some information? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. Master. If it doesn't want to see you, then it's fine, but if it gets angry and attacks us, our chances of winning aren't high. When the little dolphin heard Leng Ruoxue's words, it asked worriedly. The sea was the world of the sea beasts, and human experts had no advantage at the bottom of the sea. Moreover, that expert's strength was unfathomable. When the elders in the clan mentioned that elder to it, they were all very cautious. From this, it could be seen how terrifying that expert's strength was. Therefore, it did not really agree with its master going to find that mysterious expert. I just want to ask it something. It won't be unreasonable. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Master. You want to reason with beastie? The little dolphin looked at Leng Ruoxue in a daze. The first rule of the beast law was that the strong were respected. Whoever had the tougher fist would have the final say. If you had the time to reason with beastie, why not fight them? If he won, everything would be easy. This was how beastie did things, simple and clear. As for infighting and such, it was not suitable for most beastie. Since the other party is an expert from the endless ocean, there should be some reason. Leng Ruoxue said confidently. Ah. The little dolphin couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on its forehead. It really didn't know where its master got such confidence from. It should be known that in its eyes, most beasts would not reason with humans because they didn't trust humans at all. Little dolphin. It's better to hit the jackpot than to pick another day, let's set off now. Leng Ruoxue said without any hurry. After she finished speaking, she left the house with the evildoer. After they left, she kept the house back into her bangle and sat on the back of the little dolphin with the evildoer. When the little dolphin saw this, it laughed bitterly and helplessly. Then, with a gentle wave of its front fin, a transparent light enveloped Leng Ruoxue and the demon. Following that, it dove into the depths of the sea. Leng Ruoxue and the demon sat on the back of the little dolphin. There was a light shield protecting them from the outside. The two of them looked around as if they were sightseeing. The deeper they went into the sea, the less light there was. Furthermore, this time, there were no fish surrounding them out of curiosity. Leng Ruoxue could not help but sigh when she saw this. This was indeed a different species of diving from her previous life. As they neared the trench, the little dolphin was about to continue diving when suddenly, a warning sounded out of nowhere. Human. Quickly leave. Chapter 17:18, The Mysterious Poison. 1. The voice was ancient and deep, and there was a hint of pressure in the voice, which was very frightening. The little dolphin's body trembled uncontrollably when it heard the voice. From this, it could be seen how powerful the voice was to the beasts in the sea. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue patted the little dolphin's smooth back to comfort it. Then, her beautiful eyes looked towards the pitch-black trench and said softly, Senior, I have an important matter to discuss with you. Since this powerful being had already issued a warning, she naturally wouldn't let the little dolphin get close. However, she had to see this mysterious powerful being, so she could only ask it to come out. Human. Leave quickly, or else don't blame me for being merciless. The owner of the voice warned again, but he had no intention of coming out. Senior. I have an important matter to discuss with you. Leng Ruoxue said stubbornly. If this fellow wasn't the strongest expert in the ocean, she wouldn't be so thick-skinned as to stay here. Since she was here, she naturally didn't want to leave empty-handed. What can a human want to see me for? The owner of the voice snorted coldly, clearly not believing Leng Ruoxue's words. Senior, I would like to ask you about something. This matter is related to the safety of the powerhouses of the endless ocean, so I hope you can come out and meet me. Leng Ruoxue coaxed him patiently. Ha ha ha. Little girl, although you have a glib tongue, what does the other strong men of the endless ocean have to do with me? I've always been a loner. The owner of the voice mocked. Senior, I'm not trying to scare you, but if all the masters of the endless ocean die, then the endless ocean will fall into the hands of others. At that time, I'm afraid that even a lone master like you will be enslaved. Is this what you want? Leng Ruoxue provoked him on purpose. Although her words were a little exaggerated, it might become a reality. The reason why she said all this was because she hoped that this mysterious expert would have some scruples. Even if it wasn't for others, he should at least do something for his own freedom. Little girl, I'm not someone who gets scared. The owner of the voice said calmly. Senior, I'm not trying to scare you. I believe that Senior should have heard of the 8 great divine domains of the divine realm. To tell you the truth, the powerhouses of the 8 divine domains and several major guilds have all gone missing along with the powerhouses of the endless sea. If they all die, have you thought about what the divine world will become? In order to gain the trust of this mysterious expert, Len Ruoxue could only reveal a little more information. After all, from her point of view, even if one wanted to clean up the snow in front of their own door, they had to consider whether the environment they were living in was stable or not. Otherwise, their freedom would probably be taken away, let alone the opportunity to clean up the snow in front of their door. And this endless sea. Without the protection of the powerhouses of the ocean, the endless ocean will fall into the hands of others sooner or later. At that time, I'm afraid that Senior's peace will be destroyed. Len Ruoxue added. However, after Len Ruoxue said all this, the mysterious expert did not respond. Could that guy have fallen asleep? Len Ruoxue thought to herself. She didn't know if her words would be of any use to this powerful being. If this fellow didn't run out of ideas and was still the same, she was afraid that her words would have been in vain. So now, she could only hope that this fellow still had a little sense of crisis. Moreover, she didn't want it to save the divine world. She only wanted to ask it some questions. After all, it was the most ancient and mysterious existence at the bottom of the sea. After a long while, the voice came again. Little human girl, what do you want to know? The voice sighed and asked. Senior. I've heard that a secret realm has appeared in the endless sea. I want to know its exact location. I wonder if Senior can tell me. Len Ruoxue suppressed the joy in her heart and pretended to be calm as she asked. The reason why she had directly asked for the location of the mystic realm and not asked this senior if he had heard of the mystic realm was because she was afraid that she would give this senior an excuse to reject her. If he replied that he didn't know, she would be at her wit's end. Therefore, she didn't plan to make a wasted trip no matter what. Thanks, little girl, are you planning to go to the secret realm? The owner of the voice asked indifferently. Yes, I am. Len Ruoxue nodded. Little girl, I advise you not to go. Any mystic realm is not as beautiful as people think. If you go to a mystic realm with your strength, let's not talk about whether you can get treasures, but if you go, it's hard to say if you can come out alive. Don't think about those unrealistic things. The mysterious expert said in a heavy tone. Senior, I'm not going to the secret realm for the treasure. Len Ruoxue replied helplessly. Could it be for the safety of the divine realm? The mysterious powerhouse chuckled. Just now, this little girl wanted to ask him about some things, and she was using the banner of the divine realm's safety. Although he also attached great importance to the divine realm's safety, he did not think that such a weak little girl could play any great role in the divine realm's safety. Therefore, he was certain that this little girl was only going to the mystery realm to search for treasures. I'm going to the secret realm to find my godfather. Len Ruoxue said honestly. Looking for a godfather? Little girl, no matter why you want to go to the secret realm, I suggest you don't go. Your strength is not enough there. The mysterious expert sighed. Senior, I naturally have my own means of self-protection after entering the secret realm. So, you don't have to worry. Len Ruoxue said confidently. All right then. Since you insist on going, I'll tell you the location of the secret plane. The mysterious man said helplessly. He had a good impression of this little girl. Unfortunately, she refused to listen to his advice. Forget it. Let her be. Many thanks, Senior. When Len Ruoxue heard this, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. No matter what, she finally knew the location of the mystic realm. That secret realm is very close to me. Do you see my trench? If we follow this trench, the secret plane will be 10,000 meters ahead. The mysterious expert said. Thank you, Senior. We're sorry to disturb you. After Len Ruoxue finished speaking, she secretly ordered the little dolphin to leave this place. Although she really wanted to go directly to the mystic realm from here, she decided to take a detour after considering that this mysterious expert was not easy to get along with. After all, he had already told her the location of the secret realm, so she couldn't not know what was good for her. Seeing that they were about to turn back, the mysterious expert said, Little girl, you can go directly from here. There's no need to take a detour, the mysterious man's words made the little dolphin, who was about to turn around, extremely surprised. When did this old man become so easy to talk to? He actually allowed them to pass through here. This fact was somewhat inconceivable. Could it be that his master's charm was so great that even this old goo was attracted? It couldn't help but wonder. Thank you, Senior. Len Ruoshua expressed her gratitude once again. Chapter 1719, The Mysterious Poison, 2, Senior. We're going over. The little dolphin reminded them softly before they were about to cross the deep trench. After that, it quickly crossed the daunting trench like an arrow leaving the bow. Not long after they left, a pair of huge, cold eyes slowly opened from the depths of the trench. Then, a light flashed and everything returned to calmness. Len Ruoshua sat on the little dolphin's back and felt the little dolphin's light-like speed. She couldn't help but laugh in her heart. This little fellow was too timid. Looking at its burning butt, it was as if they would be eaten by the mysterious expert if they were to leave a little later. In fact, from her point of view, the mysterious expert was also a reasonable person. At least he didn't make a move at the beginning and even told them the location of the trench. Just based on this point alone. In Len Ruoxua's heart, that expert was not an unreasonable person. Master. You've only been in contact with it once, so you naturally don't know how terrifying it is. The little dolphin, who understood Len Ruoxua's thoughts, said with a lingering fear. It was born in the endless ocean and had heard many of that person's glorious deeds. Therefore, it was afraid of that person from the bottom of its heart. However, it did not expect that the powerful cultivator would be so easy to talk to. Other than asking them to leave at the beginning, he did not make things too difficult for them. This was something that surprised it. Could it be that you've been in contact with it many times? Len Ruoshua asked, pretending to be surprised. No, I didn't. It's my first time too. The little dolphin said, a little embarrassed. If that's the case, how can you just hear rumors? You must know that rumors stop at the wise. The information heard from others is far less accurate than the confirmation from one's own hands. Len Ruoshua smiled as she reminded him. I know, but the elders of my clan told us about it. They wouldn't lie to us, right? The little dolphin said, a little unconvinced. Ha ha ha. Of course, your clan's elders wouldn't lie to you, but they might exaggerate the truth. You should know that things like rumors will always get more and more outrageous the more they spread, so it's best to verify it yourself. Len Ruoshua laughed. But, there are many strong people in the endless sea who have been beaten by it. Moreover, I know some of them. What do you say? The little dolphin continued. Did they say why they were beaten up? If we were beaten up just because we entered that senior's territory, why weren't we beaten up when we went there just now? Len Ruoshua retorted. One-sided words could not be trusted. The little dolphin was speechless because it knew a strong person who did say that he was beaten up when he went to the strong person's territory. Now it seemed that his words were not without water. Little dolphin. We humans have a saying, what you hear is false, but what you see is true. So, no matter when and where, don't believe one-sided words. It's very easy to be misled, and you won't be able to make an accurate judgment. However, sometimes, what you see with your own eyes may not be true. Len Ruoshua sighed. Arg. Then what do we do? The little dolphin was a little dumbfounded. Wasn't Master's words a little contradictory? Believe in your own feelings. Len Ruoshua said softly. I only acknowledged Master as my master because I believed in my own feelings. The little dolphin said smugly. Don't be so smug, let's hurry. Seeing that the little dolphin was starting to show off, Len Ruoshua helplessly urged. Thanks, Master. You have to believe in my speed. We'll be able to reach the secret realm in an hour at most. After the little dolphin finished speaking, it began to sprint at full speed. Just as it had expected, they finally arrived at the secret realm after an hour. The entire secret realm was in the middle of an endless ocean, surrounded by deep blue seawater. There was a dazzling screen of light at the entrance of the secret realm, and from the screen of light, a trace of dense spiritual energy could be seen. There were many sea beasts gathered around the secret realm, but they were not very powerful, so they could only watch from afar, not daring to take a single step closer. Seeing this, Len Ruoxue could not help but sigh. It seemed that animals had the strongest sense of danger, especially beasts with low power. "You, come over here." The little dolphin pointed at a giant sea turtle with its front fin. When the sea turtle heard the little dolphin's words, it trembled and swam over. It only had the divine power of a 5th-grade sacred beast, so it didn't dare to disobey the little dolphin's words. "What are your orders, my lord?" the sea turtle said in a muffled voice. There was a slight tremble in its voice, and it was obvious that it was afraid of the little dolphin. "Let me ask you, how long has this secret realm been here?" the little dolphin said unhappily. It was very angry. Such a secret realm had appeared in the Endless Sea. As the local snake of the Endless Sea, it had no news at all. This fact made it quite embarrassed. "Not even a year." The turtle replied very honestly. Its home was nearby, so it knew as soon as the secret realm appeared. Although the aura inside was very attractive to it, it did not dare to take a step in. "Then why don't you guys go in?" When the little dolphin heard the time, the anger in its heart subsided a lot. However, it was still angry, because its subordinates did not know the location of this mystic realm, which still made it feel embarrassed. "We're too weak to go in," the sea turtle said. In fact, they saw that many powerful people had gone in, so they did not dare to go in. The reason why they stood still here was that they wanted to wait for the powerful people to leave before they went in to pick up the things that they had missed. They might have missed out on some good things. It was with this idea that the weaker sea beasts had gathered here. Therefore, the location of the secret realm was not widely known in the Endless Ocean. "Then do you know who went in here?" the little dolphin asked again. I saw a lot of humans go in, and some of the powerhouses of our Endless Sea also went in." The turtle told him the truth. "Then did you see any of my dolphin race enter?" the little dolphin continued to ask. In order to find out more about the secret realm, it had returned to the clan before, but it found that the elders in the clan were not around. Moreover, the other clan members had never heard of the secret realm. Now that it thought about it, it was very likely that the elders of the clan had come here. I saw it," the sea turtle hurriedly said. The dolphin clan was a large clan in the Endless Ocean, and they had many powerful people. Although their sea turtle clan had more people than the dolphin clan, they could not be compared to the dolphin clan in terms of strength. Otherwise, they would have entered a long time ago. "Master, let's go in quickly." After hearing the turtle's words, the little dolphin said worriedly. As Len Ruoxue's beastie, it naturally knew that its master was suspicious of this mystic realm. Hence, after knowing that its clansmen were also inside, it became even more worried. Chapter 1720, The Mysterious Poison, 3. When the sea turtle heard the adult dolphin call a human its master, it widened its black bean-like eyes in disbelief and stared at Len Ruoxue without blinking. "Good boy. This human is so powerful." He had actually taken in a dolphin as his beast pet. One must know that the dolphin race was one of the kings of the Endless Sea and were famous for their pride. Therefore, he had never dreamed that he would be able to see a dolphin that recognized a human as its master in his lifetime, which made him very surprised. Let's go in." Len Ruoxue ignored the thoughts written on the turtle's face and nodded with a smile. After receiving Len Ruoxue's order, the little dolphin didn't even look at the sea turtle and immediately rushed into the light screen. When the sea turtle saw this scene, its respect for the little dolphin immediately rose to a new height. As expected of the great dolphin. "He's so courageous," the turtle thought to itself. It didn't dare to rush in like this. Then, it slowly swam back to its original position, calmly retracted its head into its turtle shell, and closed its eyes to rest. The little dolphin brought Leng Ruoxue and the demon into the mystic realm and immediately stopped. Leng Ruoxue and the demon jumped down from its back and started to size up the mystic realm. This mystical realm. How should he put it? Everywhere she looked was filled with the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers. The scenery was pleasant, and the spiritual qi inside was unbelievable. However, Leng Ruoxue felt a sense of disharmony. She did not know why she felt this way, but in short, this mystic realm gave her a very strange feeling. However, it was a good thing that the scenery in this secret realm was not bad. At least it would not pollute her eyes. After some thought, Leng Ruoxue moved Ning Haolan and the others out of the house. This is the secret realm? Ning Haolan and the others searched the area after they came out. Leng Ruoxue nodded and reminded, "Be careful, everyone. Miss. It's quite beautiful here," Suizhu said with some excitement. Her beautiful eyes looked here and there. "Wretched girl, stop embarrassing yourself, all right? The scenery here is just ordinary," Lu Tao said with some disappointment, but she couldn't help but feel disgusted in her heart. No matter how good this place was, could it be compared to the young Miss Space? Therefore, this place was not worthy of her attention. However, there were outsiders present, so there were some things she couldn't say clearly. "I know. I'm just a little surprised." Suizhu lowered her head in embarrassment, her cheeks blushing. At this time, she suddenly saw a flower she had never seen before from the corner of her eye. The flower was the size of a palm, and the petals were red. The overlapping petals looked unusually beautiful. "What beautiful flowers!" Suizhu exclaimed and ran forward, picking the flower and playing with it in her hand. "Be careful." Leng Ruoxue, who felt that something was amiss, quickly reminded him. When she first entered this place, she had already sized up the entire place. She did not see any flowers at all, so she was very suspicious of the flowers that had suddenly appeared. However, her warning was too late. At the same time, the flower in Quize's hand suddenly transformed into a red snake as thick as a finger and bit Quize's snow-white wrist. Immediately after, a red light flashed and the red snake disappeared. Suizhu also fainted. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. Within a few short seconds, everything was over. It was so fast that Leng Ruoxue and the rest could not react in time. By the time they could react, Suizhu had already fainted. Everyone rushed to Quize's side and helped her sit up. They looked nervously at Suizhu, whose face was getting paler and paler. They were all worried. Looking at Quize's appearance, they knew that she had been poisoned, but they did not know what poison it was. "Miss, is Suizhu all right?" Lu Tao asked carefully as she looked at Leng Ruoxue, who was examining Suizhu. "Her poison is very strange. To be honest, I don't know what kind of poison it is," Leng Ruoxue said helplessly after checking. "Miss, what should we do then?" Lu Tao was extremely worried. Since her young miss had said so, it meant that she definitely did not know. If even her young miss could not save Suizhu, then wouldn't Suizhu be? One must know that Leng Ruoxue was omnipotent in her heart. However, now that her young miss said that she had no way to cure this poison, her heart could not help but sink bit by bit. She had always treated Suizhu as her younger sister. If Suizhu... She did not dare to think further. Even though Leng Ruoxue was at a loss on what to do with this poison, she still gave Suizhu an antidote pill. She just didn't know if the antidote pill would be able to cure Quize's strange poison. After all, the antidote pill wasn't omnipotent. Some special poisons needed a specific antidote to be cured. Thanks then, she moved her little red snake out of the bracelet. "Little fire. Take a look at the poison in the bamboo and see if you have any way to cure it," Leng Ruoxue ordered. There were at least 1,000 types of poison in Xiaohu's body. She hoped that it could recognize the poison in Quize's body so that she could concoct the antidote. "Oh." Xiaohua nodded its little head, then climbed onto Quize's body and sniffed it. Then, It said to Leng Ruoxue very seriously, "Girl, I don't know what kind of poison she's been poisoned with. Why don't I bite her a few times and see if I can use poison to attack poison?" Ziahu's suggestion caused Leng Ruoxue to shake her head. Using poison to attack poison wasn't suitable for all poisons. Hence, she didn't dare to take the risk. You can't even tell what poison she's suffering from. It seems that the snake that bit Sueju is much more powerful than you. At this time, Qing Xian looked at Xiaohua with a look of disdain and made sarcastic remarks. In fact, he had met this little guy once, but this little guy was very unfriendly to him. The moment they met, he said that he wanted to bite him and that his poison could not be cured by others. Therefore, he had taken the opportunity to take a little revenge. "You demoness! What nonsense are you spouting? Do you want me to bite you? Let me tell you, it wasn't a snake that bit Sueju, because it wasn't snake venom in her body." "Humph. If it's snake venom, I wouldn't be so helpless." Lil Fire roared furiously. If it was not for Leng Ruoxue holding it back, it would have rushed up to bite Qing Xian. "Dead Ren Yao." Qing Xian was stunned when he heard this form of address. Although he didn't know the meaning of this word, it didn't sound like something good, so his anger rose. "You damn snake. It was clearly a snake that bit the bamboo, but you said it wasn't snake venom, humph. It can't be that you're so ignorant that you can't tell." Qing Xian retorted impolitely. "Fuck. Would I not know if it's a snake or not? I'm a venomous snake ancestor, no one is more venomous than me." Lil Fire shouted back at the top of its lungs. Everyone looked at the man and the snake, who did not care about their image, and roared. They could not help but feel angry. They did not look at the place and the situation when they quarreled. Now that Quizz's life and death were unknown, they started quarreling first. "Sigh. What the hell is this? All of you shut up. If you continue to argue, I'll throw you into the house." Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across the human and snake as she spoke coldly. The moment she said this, the human and snake instantly fell silent. "Great aunt. I was wrong." Qing Xian lowered his head and quickly admitted his mistake. "Girl, I was wrong too." Lil Fire was also very perceptive as it said. It was not easy for it to come out, and it did not want to go back so quickly. "They won't quarrel anymore?" Leng Ruoxue raised her brows and asked indifferently. "I won tea. He wouldn't tea. We're actually on very good terms," Qing Xian said with an ingratiating smile. After he finished speaking, he even extended a hand to stroke Ziahu's cold little head to show his friendliness. Although Lil Fire was extremely unwilling to be touched, in order to show that they had a good relationship, he could only resist the urge to bite and let Qing Xian touch him. "Remember your words. If I ever find out that your relationship is not as you say, don't blame me." Leng Ruoxue feigned anger as she warned. "Great aunt. I have a very close relationship with Little Fire." In order to prove his words, Qing Xian even specially took Little Fire from Leng Ruoxue's hands and kissed its head. Instantly, Little Fire was in a mess. Fuck. This damn transvestite actually kissed it. It wanted to vomit. He did not know if this fellow was clean or not. As long as Xiaohua thought about how it had been kissed by a man, it would be so angry that its little body would tremble. If it was not afraid that Leng Ruoxue would be angry, it would definitely teach this human a lesson. One had to know that not just anyone could kiss it. And the unlucky Qing Xian still didn't know that because of his kiss, he had already made a little snake hate him. Leng Ruoxue saw that Qing Xian had gone to such lengths to prove his relationship with Lil Fire, so she didn't want to argue with him. After keeping the unconscious emerald green bamboo into the bracelet and handing it over to Qing Ju, Leng Ruoxue then said to everyone, "Let's go. Be careful, this is just the beginning." Quizz's injury made her feel a little heavy. However, this also strengthened her idea of finding out the truth about this mystic realm. Perhaps she could cure the poison in Quizz's body by then. Everyone nodded. At the same time, they became even more vigilant. Everyone continued to move forward. Other than the flowers and grass on the side of the road, they didn't find the shadow of a human or beast. Even when the sky in the mystic realm was getting dark, they still didn't find anything. After finding a spacious area, Len Ruoxue took out the house and placed it on the ground. Then, the group walked in. After dinner, the rest of them went to bed early. However, Len Ruoxue pulled the demon to sit in the garden and observed every movement in the mystic realm through the light screen. Chapter 1721, The Little Scheme of the Qing Siblings. 1. The secret realm at night was quiet and peaceful. It seemed to be safer than the outside. However, no one knew what was hidden under this calm surface. Len Ruoxue was extremely suspicious of this place. Naturally, she wouldn't believe the calm on the surface. However, she wasn't going to be on edge either. After all, no matter how dangerous it was outside, it was impossible to disturb them. The demon pulled Len Ruoxue into his arms and smiled, "Shuai-er. Don't be afraid, no matter what kind of dragon's den or tiger's den this is, I will protect you. With you here, I'm not afraid." Len Ruoxue was very cooperative. Even though she believed in her ability to protect herself, she was still very happy to hear the words of the person she loved. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. Len Ruoxue and the demon looked at each other and then turned their attention to the screen. There were several small screens on the screen, each showing a different location. One of the small screens showed the image of the door. There was a middle-aged man at the entrance. He was tall and had a rough face. He gave off the feeling that he was a man of indomitable spirit. Furthermore, he looked like he wanted to stay overnight. Len Ruoxue and the demon looked at each other when they saw this. "Freak. Do you want him to come in?" Len Ruoxue asked for the demon's opinion to prevent him from guzzling again. "Aren't you afraid that he's an enemy?" The demon raised his eyebrows and smiled. "With you here, what am I afraid of? What's more, this is my territory. If he really does anything bad after entering here, he'll be the one to suffer," Len Ruoxue said confidently. "Then let him in. After all, it's not easy to meet a person in this secret realm." The demon nodded. They had been searching for a whole day in the secret realm, but they had not seen a single person. Unexpectedly, at night, someone had taken the initiative to come to their door, although this person's motive was very suspicious. "Yes." Len Ruoxue nodded. Then, with a thought, the door of the house opened. The middle-aged man who was waiting at the entrance looked at the open door and walked in without a second thought. Len Ruoxue saw this scene through the light screen and smiled. He's quite bold to walk in like this. As the saying goes, the skilled are bold. This man's strength is not ordinary. He saw through the middle-aged man's disguise and smiled mysteriously. "What?" Len Ruoxue looked at the demon thoughtfully. In her eyes, the middle-aged man was only at the God-King level, but the demon seemed to be quite at ease with him. At this moment, Len Ruoxue's thoughts changed again, and the middle-aged man was moved into the garden. When he first arrived at the garden, the middle-aged man was still in a daze. However, in the blink of an eye, he regained his senses. When he saw Len Ruoxue, he was momentarily surprised, but he quickly returned to normal. "Little girl, I didn't expect to meet you again so soon." When the middle-aged man saw Len Ruoxue, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. "You are the senior who lives in the trench?" Len Ruoxue wasn't too sure, but she could clearly remember the low voice. "It's this old master." The middle-aged man nodded. "Thanks, I didn't think we would be so fated with senior." After confirming this, Len Ruoxue's heart was greatly relieved. Even though she didn't know why this senior would suddenly enter the mystic realm, she was still very happy that the first person she met here was someone she knew. "I didn't expect it either. No wonder the little girl said you have a way to protect yourself, so you have such a divine tool." The middle-aged man exclaimed in surprise. Before he asked Len Ruoxue to stay, he had doubted the authenticity of this place. Even after he had entered, he had maintained a trace of vigilance. However, with his strength, he was confident that he could deal with anything that was amiss here. Hence, after the door opened, he walked in without hesitation. However, after seeing Leng Ruoxue, he was relieved. At the same time, he was glad that he was lucky. Otherwise, he would have to sleep in the open in this unfamiliar secret realm. This house was given to me by the Armament Guild's great elder. Now, he and my godfather are trapped in the secret realm, so I have no choice but to enter the secret realm to find out what's going on. Leng Ruoxue explained. So that's how it is. Little girl, you're so loyal, it's not in vain that they dote on you. The middle-aged man praised. Originally, he had a very good impression of Leng Ruoxue. Now that he heard of Leng Ruoxue's purpose in coming to the mystic realm, his impression of her improved even more. After all, with her strength, she dared to enter this unknown mystic realm. Just based on this courage alone, she was worthy of others' respect. Senior praises me too much. In fact, the reason I dared to come here is only because I have some means of self-protection. Otherwise, with my strength, I would undoubtedly be courting death. Leng Ruoxue replied politely. Ha ha ha. Little girl, you don't have to be so modest. Seeing how polite Leng Ruoxue was, the middle-aged man couldn't help but smile. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but wipe away the cold sweat on her forehead. She wasn't being humble, all right? She was clearly telling the truth. However, she would not argue with this mysterious expert over such a small matter. Therefore, she changed the topic and said, Senior, I'll arrange a room for you. You should rest early. Good. Sorry to trouble you, little girl, but you can call me Uncle Long. The middle-aged man reminded. Uncle Long. This way, please. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she brought Uncle Long to the guest room. The next day, when Feng De and the others walked out of the room, they were surprised to find a stranger in the house. Leng Ruoxue took the initiative to introduce them to each other when she saw the surprised expressions on their faces. Hello, Uncle Long. Feng De and the others bowed politely. Ha ha ha. No need to be so polite. Uncle Long quickly said. Then, he turned to Leng Ruoxue and said, Little girl, your subordinates have good aptitudes and have great potential. Although Feng De and the others' strength was not high, he was quite optimistic about these young people. At this moment, the little dolphin ran out from the bracelet. Of course, it was the one who had strongly requested Leng Ruoxue to let it out to meet this legendary figure. Seeing a mini dolphin circling him curiously, Uncle Long's face darkened. Finally, he couldn't help but say, Little guy, have you seen enough? Is there grass on my face? For you to look at it so carefully. Hearing Uncle Long's teasing, the little dolphin was greatly provoked. Was this the legendary master with a bad temper? How? How did this happen? Was there a mistake somewhere? The elders of their families didn't describe it like that. Or was it a fake? At this thought, the little dolphin suspiciously sized up Uncle Long again. Little guy, if you keep looking at me like that, I won't give your master any face. Uncle Long threatened. In other words, he was saying, if you continue to size me up, I'll teach you a lesson. Chapter 1722, The Little Scheme of the Qing Siblings, 2. When the little dolphin heard this, its suspended heart was slightly relieved. It looked like he was still that old. Senior. It was just that he was giving face to his master, so he put on such an affable appearance. After confirming, the little dolphin ran back to its master's arms, not even looking at Uncle Long. AI. Who asked Uncle Long's reputation to be so frightening? There was no one in the entire endless sea who wasn't afraid of him. After everyone was done looking around, Uncle Long turned to Leng Ruoxue and said, Little girl, where do you plan to go next? We don't have any purpose, so we just go wherever we want. Leng Ruoxue answered honestly. In reality, she really did not know where to go. Yesterday, they had been wandering around the secret realm like headless flies for an entire day. It was a pity that they had not found anything. In that case, let's go together. I have a talent that can find places with people. Therefore, everyone can take fewer detours. Uncle Long explained. After all, he was very clear that Len Ruoxue and the others had come in to look for someone. That was his purpose as well. Really? That's great. When Len Ruoxue heard that Uncle Long had such a talent, she was overjoyed. In this secret realm, Qing Ju's abilities could not be displayed at all. Otherwise, they would not have wandered around the place yesterday. Furthermore, if Uncle Long's talent was really that useful, it would be much easier for them to find someone. Ha ha ha. Otherwise, how do you think I found you guys yesterday? Uncle Long laughed out loud. Len Ruoxue's shock had lifted his mood. Uncle Long. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her in this secret realm. Len Ruoxue said, trying to please him. Her words had indeed pleased Uncle Long. Ha ha ha. Good. As long as you can get me more food. Uncle Long said with a drooling face. He hadn't eaten human food for many years, and he was still brooding over the taste of that breakfast. He couldn't help but drool even when he thought about it. Uncle Long, I have a lot of food here, so you can eat as much as you want. Len Ruoxue chuckled. Little girl, you said it yourself. Uncle Long has a huge appetite. If I really eat too much, don't be reluctant to part with me. Uncle Long said the ugly words first. He didn't eat his fill in the morning. I won tea. You can eat as much as you want, Uncle Long. Len Ruoxue promised. In reality, she didn't think that Uncle Long's appetite would be that big. However, after interacting with him for a few days, she realized that she was wrong. It turned out that Uncle Long's appetite was ridiculously huge. After the introductions, everyone chatted for a while more before they continued on their way. 3 days later. Len Ruoxue and the rest still did not see a single person. Uncle Long. It's been 3 days, why haven't I seen anyone yet? Feng De walked to Uncle Long's side and couldn't help but ask. In the past 3 days, they had become very familiar with Uncle Long, so it was quite easy for him to ask such a question. What's wrong? You can't wait anymore? Uncle Long raised his eyebrows and smiled. A little. It's already been 3 days, and we haven't even seen a single person. There's no way to ask anyone about the situation here, sigh. Feng De sighed. Little brat. I've said it before, there are people in front of us. However, you can't teleport here, otherwise, I would have brought you there to find them long ago. Uncle Long explained patiently. Thanks, Uncle Long, how much longer do we have to walk? When Lin Yuan heard this, he could not help but ask. Half a day more. I'll probably see them tonight. Uncle Long looked at the sky and estimated. Then let's hurry. Lin Yuan urged. Ha ha ha. Don't worry. They can't run. Uncle Long sensed and said with great certainty. In this secret realm, both teleportation and divine sense were useless. Therefore, unless one had the same talent as him, it was almost impossible to find a person. Moreover, he could sense that the few humans 10,000 meters away were in a tense state. They had finally found a seemingly safe place and would not leave easily. Thus, he was not in a hurry at all. However, seeing that Feng De and the others seemed to be in a hurry, he had to speed up. As Uncle Long had expected, they finally arrived at their destination in the evening. It was a small hill that was half the height of a person. At this time, there were 8 people resting there. 7 men and 1 woman among the 8 people looked extremely miserable. After seeing them, they clenched the weapons in their hands vigilantly and stared at them with an unfriendly gaze. Who are you people? The one who spoke was a young master who looked to be in his early 20s. Although he was very handsome, his disheveled appearance greatly reduced his handsomeness. Cheng Yi. What are you doing here? Cheng Xian, who was walking in the middle of Feng De and the others, said in surprise when he saw the man who spoke. Young master. You're here too. When Cheng Yi saw Cheng Xian, he felt a little upset. They were both geniuses of the Qing family, but their positions were different. Qing Xian was the young master of the Qing family, while he was only one of the geniuses in the younger generation of the Qing family. With Qing Xian around, all his brilliance was overshadowed. Everyone only saw the dazzling young master of the Qing family. As for him, a genius whose aptitude was no less than the young master's, almost no one paid attention to him. Therefore, ever since he was sensible, he had been jealous of Qing Xian from the bottom of his heart. Now, they were both in the secret realm. He was in a sorry state, but the clothes on Qing Xian's body were not even wrinkled. What was even more unacceptable to him was that he could not see Qing Xian's strength. What did this mean? He didn't dare to think too deeply. At this time, the woman beside him couldn't help but speak. "Big brother, young master. I didn't expect to see you here, Xian is so happy." The woman named Xian said. Qing Xian looked at the woman in front of him and frowned. He didn't expect to see them here. The two people talking were brother and sister, and they were cousins who were closer to him. However, he never liked to be close to them. After seeing them here, he was more unhappy. Did the old ancestor bring them here? That old man wouldn't be so brainless to bring these two burdens here, right? Qing Xian couldn't help but think in his heart. However, when he saw the other people around Cheng Yi and his sister, he understood that they must have heard the news from somewhere and came here by themselves. The people around them were the elders of Cheng Yi's maternal grandfather, the Cao family. Young Master Cheng. Long time no see. Sensing Qing Xian's gaze, the most powerful elder among the elders spoke. "Third Elder Chao, what are you doing here?" Qing Xian asked directly. Although he had already guessed the truth, he still had to pretend to be surprised. Chapter 1723, The Little Scheme of the Qing Siblings, 3. We happened to learn about the secret realm, so the clan leader sent us here to explore. But we didn't expect this place to be so dangerous. The Cao family's third elder said with a lingering fear. When he saw Qing Xian and the people around him, his heart that had been hanging for a long time finally relaxed a little. Although the strength of the people Qing Xian had brought was not very high, it was still better than their entire army being annihilated and becoming a commander of light. I see. Qing Xian knew that the cunning old man wasn't telling the whole truth, but he didn't bother to expose him. Instead, he politely replied. Young Master Cheng. Are they the subordinates you brought here? The third elder of the Cao family looked at the person beside Qing Xian and asked curiously. No. They are my friends. Qing Xian chuckled. Big brother, young master. You're the young master of the Qing family, how can you make friends so casually? Besides, even if he wanted to make friends, he should at least make friends with people of similar strength and family background. These people are not worthy of being your friends. Hearing this, Qing Xian immediately said in dissatisfaction. Xian don't talk nonsense. It's the young master's right to make friends with whoever he wants, we have no right to ask. When Cheng Yi heard Qing Xian's words, his heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, it's over. Xian's mouth is going to ruin things. In the current situation, what they needed the most was an alliance, and the other side had so many people, which was exactly what he wanted. Thus, he was very afraid that Xian's words would anger them, so before Qing Xian could respond, he rushed to scold him. Big brother. How can we not have the right to ask? This is related to our Qing family's face. If young Lord Big Brother makes some shady friends, it'll be our Qing family that'll lose face. Qing Xian heard her own brother blaming her for an outsider, and her heart was filled with dissatisfaction. You have no right to ask what kind of friends I make. As for whether or not we'll lose face for the Qing family, it's not something that can be decided with just a few words. Qing Xian said coldly. As he spoke, he couldn't help but steal a glance at Leng Ruoxue and the others. He knew the background of these people and knew how cruel and merciless they were. However, he wasn't afraid that Leng Ruoxue and the others would do anything to Qing Xian in a fit of anger. Instead, he was afraid that Leng Ruoxue and the others would blame him for this. If that happened, the heavens would take pity on him. This really had nothing to do with him. He was innocent. After making sure that Leng Ruoxue and the others weren't angry at Qing Xian'er's words, he finally felt at ease. However, he still felt a little guilty. After all, Qing Xian'er was a member of the Qing family. Actually, it wasn't that Leng Ruoxue and the rest weren't angry. It was just that they felt that there was no need to be calculative with a brain-damaged woman since they were in the mystic realm. After all, the mystic realm was the place they should be most concerned about. As for this brain-damaged woman, they would just let her run her own course. They didn't need to be too concerned. Young Master Cheng. Xian'er has always been direct, I hope you don't mind. The Cao family's third elder saw that Qing Xian's expression was a little ugly, and he secretly glared at Qing Xian'er, who didn't understand the situation, and tried to smooth things over. I know she's direct, so I can let her go no matter what she thinks. After all, we're all members of the Qing family, how can there be overnight hatred? However, the person she mentioned just now is my friend, so I can't just ignore this. Qing Xian said very seriously. Hearing Qing Xian's words, Elder Chao Sen hurriedly said to Qing Xian'er, quickly apologize to young Master Cheng's friends. Third Grandpa. I didn't do anything wrong, why do you want me to apologize? Qing Xian'er said with an aggrieved expression. What you said just now was very impolite, so you must apologize. Chao Sanjiang raised his face and said in an extremely displeased manner. When they first entered the secret realm, they had brought no less than 100 people with them. Although the majority of them were god kings, almost all of them had died in less than a month. This fact had given him a whole new understanding of the secret realm. As a result, he was rather excited when he saw Qing Xian bring so many people. What did this mean? This meant that their chances of survival had increased. In this secret realm, there was no lack of experts. However, there was a lack of cannon fodder. And now, Fengde and the others had become excellent cannon fodder in his eyes. That was why he was so strict with Qing Xian'er. He didn't want them to run away in anger because of Xian'er's rudeness. It was not easy to see a person here. I'm telling the truth. You want me to apologize? No way. Qing Xian'er's eyes were slightly red, and tears were welling up in her beautiful eyes. It was as if she would be flooded with water if Third Elder Chao said a word to her. As the young miss of the Qing family, she was now being reprimanded by an elder of her mother's family. To be honest, she felt very unbalanced in her heart. However, who asked her mother to have a low status in the family? They had to rely on the power of their mother's family to stand firm in the Qing family. This decided that they had to look at the face of their maternal family sometimes, even if they were from the Qing family. As for their maternal ancestor, the Cao family, although it was not ranked among the 8 great divine regions, it could still be considered a top-tier family in the divine realm. Furthermore, it had been passed down for many years. As a result, its status in the divine realm was only second to the 8 great divine regions. The siblings relied on the maternal family in many ways. That was why the elders of the maternal family dared to reprimand her in front of outsiders. This fact also made her quite angry. Thanks seeing Qing Xian'er's stubbornness, Third Elder Chao had no choice but to send a voice transmission to Qing Xian'er. He explained the relationship between the two parties and asked her to put the overall situation first. After Qing Xian'er heard Third Elder Chao's explanation, she unwillingly lowered her noble head. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being impolite just now. Qing Xian'er's face was slightly red as she said in embarrassment. She was indeed a young lady from an aristocratic family. She was very flexible and could bow and stretch. When she apologized, she looked very sincere. However, the flash of resentment in her eyes was still caught by Leng Ruoxue, who was watching coldly from the side. AI. It seemed that the acting skills of the young masters and young ladies of the big families were extraordinary. It was a pity that there were no Oscar awards in the divine realm. Otherwise, she would definitely award the best actor and best actress to them. With such acting skills, it would be a waste if they were not stars. Leng Ruoxue secretly thought to herself, but her beautiful eyes were sizing up the Qing siblings. They had some similarities with Qing Xian in terms of appearance. If Cheng Yi had not been in such a sorry state, he would have been an elegant young master. As for Miss Cheng, she was as beautiful as a flower and could cause the downfall of a city. Coupled with her sorry appearance, it would make men cherish her more. However, the men around her who did not know how to be tender to women were exceptions. As she thought of this, her beautiful eyes turned to Ning Haolan, who was hidden among the crowd. She thought to herself, this guy seems to be a man who knows how to take care of women. I just don't know if this Miss Cheng is his type. Sensing Leng Ruoxue's gaze, Ning Haolan broke out in a cold sweat. What was this woman trying to do by sizing him up? He was so scared. Just as Ning Haolan's heart was in a mess, Qing Xian'er saw that her apology didn't get a response from the other party, and she became even more furious. These people really didn't know what was good for them. The dignified Miss Qing apologized to them, but they completely ignored her. This made her feel like she had lost face, and the anger in her heart slowly brewed and burned. I'm sorry. I was being rude just now. Qing Xian'er suppressed her anger and repeated. It doesn't matter. We can understand that Miss Cheng is doing this for young Master Cheng's sake. After all, it's really unfair for us to befriend young Master Cheng with our status. Seeing that no one wanted to pay attention to this Miss Cheng, Leng Ruoxue could only reply with kindness. Leng Ruoxue's words made Qing Xian break out in cold sweat. When Qing Xian'er heard Leng Ruoxue's reply, she felt a sense of relief in her heart. The woman who spoke seemed to know her place. She liked this kind of woman. However, when she saw Leng Ruoxue's face, she did not like her that much. Damn it! How could this woman be so beautiful? And the man beside her was simply a match made in heaven with her. The two of them stood together so well matched and extremely eye-catching. However, looking at their clothes, she also knew that they were not from a top family. With this thought in mind, her heart felt a little more balanced. Moreover, she found another familiar face among them. Brother Lan. It's really you. Qing Xian'er ignored Leng Ruoxue's words as she looked at Ning Haolan in disbelief. Her beautiful cheeks were a little pink as she lowered her head shyly. In fact, she was actually comparing Ning Haolan to the demonic man she had seen earlier. Brother Lan was the young master of the Ning family, the future head of the family. His future was limitless, and that devilish man definitely could not compare to Brother Lan in terms of status and strength. The only advantage he had over Brother Lan was that beautiful face that was unforgettable. However, no matter how beautiful a man was, if he did not have the corresponding strength and status to add color, he was just a vase. And what was the use of having such a man? Comparing the two, the scales in her heart naturally leaned towards Ning Haolan. As for that woman, other than being more beautiful than her strength and family background were definitely not comparable to hers. After thinking about it this way, her jealousy towards Leng Ruoxue faded. After all, she valued a man's strength and status more because it meant that she would have the chance to share this honor. As she thought about it, the smile on her face became more and more charming. The way she looked at Ning Haolan became more and more affectionate. When Leng Ruoxue saw her like this, she knew that she had fallen for Ning Haolan. It was still all right. Leng Ruoxue heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he didn't have any ideas about the evildoer. As for which man Qing Xian'er had taken a fancy to, that was none of her business. Chapter 1724, Greed. 1. Leng Ruoxue was relieved, but Ning Haolan was conflicted. He knew that his status was an irresistible attraction to some women. However, this Qing Xian'er's direct and unconcealed gaze on him still caused him to feel an indescribable irritation. Although there were many women who were interested in him, it was rare for her to be so direct. However, because she was a member of the Qing family, Ning Haolan had to give the Qing family some face even if he was angry. Seeing Ning Haolan remain silent after hearing her words, Qing Xian'er felt a little upset. However, she knew that the young master of the Ning family never liked to talk, so she didn't mind too much. After all, in her eyes, women should take the initiative. Wasn't there a saying that went take the initiative? There was a thin veil between a woman and a man, and since there was only one veil, she had to break it no matter what. At this thought, she walked over to Ning Haolan's side, her smile as bright as a spring flower, and said gently, "Brother Lan. It's so good to meet you here." With that, she lowered her head shyly, not daring to look at Ning Haolan. Seeing her like this, Qing Xian was full of disdain. Stop pretending. It's not like Hao Lan didn't know what she was. In fact, the young masters of the 8 great divine regions had heard about the character of the young ladies of each family. After all, one of them could become the marriage partner of the family in the future. Therefore, when they were very young, people would gradually report the situation of the young ladies of each family to them. As for those daughters from rich families, although many of them were good at acting, even good actors would reveal their flaws sometimes. Therefore, it was not easy for those young ladies to hide their true nature. As for this Qing Xian, she was one of the most outstanding in acting. On the outside, she appeared to be a dignified and virtuous woman, well-behaved and cute, but in reality, she was quite overbearing in private. Moreover, she was a woman with a strong desire for power and a strong sense of vanity. However, she had probably suffered a great shock in the secret realm, so she had almost exposed her true nature just now. But no matter how she tried to hide it, it was useless. This was because Hao Lan would never like her. What a coincidence! The corner of Ning Haolan's mouth twitched slightly as a form of greeting. Yup. Brother Lan. It's better to meet by chance than to invite you. Since we've met, it's fate. Let's go together in the future. Qing Xian said passionately. At this moment, there was only Ning Haolan in her heart and in her eyes. No one else was worthy of her attention, including Qing Xian. Miss Cheng. I'm here with my friend. Ning Haolan said in a soft voice. He was trying to say, I can't leave my friend behind to be with you. However, Qing Xian wouldn't be able to read between the lines. In other words, even if she did, she would ignore it. It doesn't matter. Since we're fated to meet, we can travel together. Without waiting for Qing Xian to speak, the 3rd elder of the Cao family spoke first. Furthermore, his words were a statement and not a question. It was clear that he didn't want to give Leng Ruoxue and the others a chance to reject. After all, cannon fodder was hard to come by. When Ning Haolan heard this, he suppressed his displeasure and looked at Leng Ruoxue and the others. When he saw Leng Ruoxue nod, he said, All right then. Since 3rd Elder Chao has graciously invited us, we'll respectfully accept. However, if we find any treasures in the secret plane, how are we going to split them among so many of us? Then, Ning Haolan changed the topic and revealed the fact that the 3rd elder of the Cao family had deliberately ignored. Naturally, it will be distributed according to contribution. The Cao family's 3rd elder said after thinking for a moment. The reason why he said this was because he had too few people on his side. If it was distributed according to the number of people, his side would definitely suffer a loss. If it was distributed according to the contribution, his strength was clearly above theirs. They had already agreed on the distribution method in advance, so when it was really time to distribute it, presumably they would not be able to say anything. Therefore, the 3rd elder of the Cao family, who thought that his plan was flawless, suggested this fair distribution method. Thanks. When Leng Ruoxue heard the words of the Cao family's 3rd elder, she chuckled and said, This distribution method is very fair. Let's do it this way. In fact, she didn't think that she would be able to find anything good here. Hee hee. I still don't know young lattice's name. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue had made the final decision and that no one else had objected, the Cao family's 3rd elder was suspicious. Did this woman's words carry so much weight? He was surprised that young Master Ning and young Master Qing didn't have any objections. My surname is Leng. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Cold. Upon hearing this surname, Elder Chao San racked his brain but still could not think of any top family in the divinity with the surname Leng. Our Leng clan has yet to establish a clan in the divinity. Leng Ruoxua explained when she saw the doubt in third Elder Chao's eyes. Oh. Leng Ruoxua's words caused third Elder Chao's enthusiasm towards her to drop. He had originally thought that since she was close to young Master Ning and young Master Cheng, she was also a young lady from some top family. Who knew that he was actually a rogue cultivator who didn't even have a family? But this was good too. People without a family background were easy to mess with, right? The Cao family's third elder saw that Leng Ruoxua and the others were of no value to him, so he treated them coldly and turned to Ning Haolan instead. He walked to Ning Haolan's side and started chatting with him with a smile on his face. Leng Ruoxua and the others saw this and tactfully walked to a corner. They each found a seat and sat down. Grape and the others even took out some food to prepare for dinner. Miss. This whatever third elder Chao is really looking down on people. Feng De said indignantly. Isn't this just right? I don't intend to have any deep friendship with them. Leng Ruoxua said with a smile. Hee hee. This little girl is still the most open-minded one, kid. You haven't trained enough. One must know that no matter where one was, there would always be people with eyes on top of their heads, so it was better to stay calm. Besides, these people aren't worth your time. Uncle Long said earnestly. In fact, other than being able to find out where there were people here, he was also very talented in recognizing people. Thus, he only needed a glance to know that he could only make use of these people from the Cao family. I'm very calm, and I don't want to make friends with them. I just think that this person is a little too realistic. Once they heard that we didn't have a family, they ignored us. Feng De was a little speechless. He had seen many people in his life, but this was the first time he had seen such a realistic person. In the divinity, family is very important. If a cultivator without any background wants to stand out, he must have someone to rely on. Otherwise, why do you think so many experts want to rely on a more powerful top force? It's precisely because those powers can provide them with even better resources that many experts would rather be a guest minister in a top clan than wander around the divine realm alone. Furthermore, the greatest benefit of having an attachment is that it will make the enemy forget about them. Uncle Long said with a smile. Chapter 1725, Greed, 2:0. What if the enemy is so powerful that even the family they are attached to is afraid of them? Feng De asked curiously. Hearing Feng De's question, Uncle Long was stunned. Not many people would be stupid enough to make such an enemy. If he really did, it could only be considered his bad luck. Under such circumstances, the family could only choose to sacrifice him. Then aren't the people who are sacrificed very pitiful? Feng De said with a hint of sympathy. That can't be helped. Even if the one who got into this trouble was a direct clansman, there's no room for discussion about the sacrifice, let alone a guest attached to his own family. Uncle Long sighed. This was the tragedy of a big family. If we get into big trouble, my lady will never choose to sacrifice us. Feng De said with certainty after hearing what Uncle Long said. How many people do you think are like this little girl in this world? Uncle Long asked, a little speechless. After interacting with them for a few days, he had a basic understanding of these people and was also very clear of Leng Ruoxua's position in the hearts of her subordinates. However, that little girl was indeed a person worthy of trust, and his impression of Leng Ruoxua was also very good. Hee hee. There were only a few. Moreover, when our forces grow stronger in the future, only hierarch-level cultivators can be our guest elders. We don't even want a divine emperor. Feng De said happily. Reverend God. Uncle Long's eyes widened as he laughed and scolded, you really dare to think. The Reverend God-level cultivators in the divine world, including humans and magical beasts, are less than 100 people. Moreover, all the major forces regard Reverend God-level cultivators as their clan treasures. Do you think a Reverend God-level cultivator would want to be a guest? Even in the 8 great divine domains and the 4 great royal families of the magical beasts, hierarch level and hierarch level divine beasts are all ancestor level divine beasts. Which family do you think would let their own ancestor be a guest minister? Feng Die's whimsical thinking made Uncle Long feel very helpless. However, he quite admired this little guy's courage to think like this. Thinking about things that others didn't dare to think about was also a kind of courage. Are there any reverent gods in the divine realm? Leng Ruoxue suddenly asked after hearing what Uncle Long had to say. The so-called reclusive hierarch was an expert who kept a low profile and was not known to the public. Even if he had broken through, he had not told the world. There are many low-profile and mysterious forces in the divine world, and the hierarch gods of those forces are almost unknown to the public. Even the people of those forces are very low-profile, but their reputation is not small. And these forces, whose details are unknown, are often the ones you can't offend the most. Uncle Long said seriously. Little girl. When walking in the divine world, the most important thing is to endure. Do not offend people easily. Even if you have to provoke them, do not leave behind any evidence. You must eliminate the roots, or else there will be endless trouble in the future. Uncle Long added. Leng Ruoxue nodded. At this moment, the food for the grapes was almost done. The fragrance quickly attracted the attention of the 3rd elder and the rest. Elder Chao San squinted his eyes as a glint flashed across them. He had not expected that these people would have such fresh food in their hands. It was really infuriating to compare. Before they entered the secret realm, because they had fantasized too much about this place, they had not brought any other food except for some dry food. They had originally thought that if they were hungry, they could at least get some beast meat to eat. In the end, they did not even see the shadow of a beast. They had been here for almost a month, and they had eaten a lot of dry food for several days. Fortunately, with their cultivation, they would not feel hungry even if they did not eat. However, they had cultivated from ordinary people after all. Therefore, food was an indispensable thing for them. Although they did not eat it every day, they would occasionally satisfy their craving for food. Thanks, the dry rations that they had brought with them were not enough to pique their interest. However, the food that these people had prepared had attracted their cravings. The smell alone was enough to make them drool. Even if they were at home, they would not be able to make such delicious food. At the same time, Elder Chao San walked towards Leng Ruoxue and the rest and sat down beside them. He then said, "What did you make? It smells so good." "It's just some simple food, it's not worth mentioning," Leng Ruoxue chuckled. To be able to make such simple foods so delicious, his skills are not ordinary. Elder Chao San praised, but his eyes were fixed on the pot in Green Peach's hand. 3rd Elder Chao has spoken too much. Let's use some together. Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. This old man must have been hungry for a long time. His eyes were actually green with greed when he saw food. She wondered if they would snatch it from her if she did not take the initiative to invite them to eat. Hee. Then we won't be polite. After Elder Chao San finished speaking, he actually took the initiative to pick up the bowl of green peach and filled it up for himself. When the other members of the Cao family saw this, they didn't stand on ceremony either because the taste of the food was really too tempting. When Lu Tao saw that they did not treat her as an outsider, her heart was burning with anger. However, when she received Leng Ruoxue's comforting gaze, she forcibly suppressed it. However, she couldn't understand why her young miss would tolerate them so much. These people clearly looked down on them and now they were here to snatch their food without caring about their face. They were really too shameless. When she thought of this, her face became serious. After finishing their dinner with an unpleasant expression, Lu Tao and the rest were preparing to set up their tents to rest. However, they saw Leng Ruoxue taking out a house and placing it on the empty ground. Instantly, everyone became nervous. What's wrong with Miss? Why did he take out the house when there were outsiders? Feng De and the others were dumbfounded. Why was the young miss so high profile? This wasn't like the young miss. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in turmoil. However, Uncle Long was very calm. When he saw Leng Ruoxue take out the house, he smiled in admiration and walked straight in. Elder Chao San and the others were equally dumbfounded. As soon as the house appeared, they were all stunned. Their mouths were half open, and they didn't react for a long time. When they came back to their senses, they all rubbed their eyes in unison, afraid that everything in front of them was an illusion. However, after confirming it, they believed that the house in front of them was real. After confirming the authenticity of the house, the experienced and knowledgeable Elder Chao San suddenly recalled that there seemed to be a kind of legendary spatial divine artifact that could allow people to live in the shape of a house. However, it was said that the materials used to refine this divine artifact were extremely difficult to find. Moreover, in this world, the craftsmen who could refine spatial divine artifacts that could allow people to live in were as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. So, who had refined this house? His heart was filled with question marks. For a moment, the Cao family's third elder's heart was filled with all sorts of feelings. The sourness in his heart rose uncontrollably from the bottom of his heart. He was jealous. Moreover, he was extremely jealous. A little girl without any status like her actually possessed a spatial-type divine artifact that could make people in the divine realm go crazy for. This was truly too inconceivable. What right did she have? Chapter 1726, Greed, 3. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. The third elder of the Cao family was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. If this divine tool was owned by the young master of the Qing family or the young master of the Ning family, perhaps he would feel more balanced in his heart. After all, their status was there. It wasn't strange to have something good. However, such a divine weapon had actually fallen into the hands of a little girl with low strength, no status, and no status. This made him feel extremely unbalanced in his heart. In fact, from his point of view, if this divine weapon could be owned by him, the effect it could display would definitely be much greater than if it was in Leng Ruoxue's hands. Furthermore, if their Chao family had this spatial-type divine weapon, their status in the divinity would probably be even higher. It was not impossible for them to become the 9th great divine realm, even in this secret realm. If they had that divine artifact in their hands, they would be like tigers that had grown wings, and their chances of survival in the secret realm would also greatly increase. The many benefits made third elder Chao's heart move. Thinking of this, his heart was filled with greed. Young Lady Leng, if I'm not wrong, this house should be the legendary spatial-type divine artifact, right? The Cao family's third elder deliberately put on a surprised expression and asked very cautiously. Third elder Chao has a good eye, not bad. This is the legendary spatial artifact that can allow people to live in it. Leng Ruoxue replied with a smile. Her words caused the few people from the Cao family who had just reacted to the situation to widen their eyes in shock. After all, if it wasn't for the fact that the third elder had told them the truth, they wouldn't have dared to think in that direction. May I ask Miss Leng, how did you get this divine artifact? Elder Chao San asked curiously. Even though he knew that his question was a little abrupt, he could not help but ask. I spent a large amount of money to ask the craftsmen from the Craftsmen's Guild to help me refine it. For this divine artifact, I went bankrupt. Leng Ruoxue complained. If I can get such a divine weapon by going bankrupt, it's worth it. Third Elder Chao said enviously. Even if the Cao family were to go bankrupt, they would not be able to obtain all the materials needed to refine this divine weapon. When he thought of this, he became even more jealous of Leng Ruoxue. Why was her luck so good? However, her good luck is also coming to an end, Elder Chao San thought to himself hatefully. Third Elder Chao, we plan to sleep inside today. As for you, if you are interested, you can also come in and sleep. Leng Ruoxue invited him enthusiastically. Then I'll have to thank Miss Leng. Elder Chao San thought for a moment and agreed. Even though there was a certain risk in entering an own divine weapon, they had been on high alert for a while. Everyone was on edge and their minds were in a state of tension. This was extremely disadvantageous to them who were in the secret realm. Hence, they really needed a good rest. Moreover, with Qing Xian around, he believed that Leng Ruoxue would not dare to harm them even if she gave Qing Xian face. Please. Feng De, arrange rooms for Elder Chao San and the others. Leng Ruoxue ordered. Yes. Feng De replied unwillingly. Then, he said to Elder Chao San and the others, Third Elder Chao. I'll take you to the guest room. Thank you for your trouble. Elder Chao San cupped his hands in a slight bow. As she watched the Cao family and the Qing family siblings leave, Lu Tao pouted and asked in confusion, Miss, why did you take out the house and let them move in? I think that whatever third elder clearly doesn't have good intentions. When he sees this house, he might even be tempted by the money. She was very worried. What are you afraid of? I'm the owner of this house, and since they've moved in, they naturally have to listen to my arrangements. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Go and rest. The most important thing is to take care of your spirit. Leng Ruoxue continued. After she finished speaking, she pulled the evildoer back to her room. In the room, the evildoer hugged Leng Ruoxue and chuckled, Shuer, aren't you afraid that they'll have bad intentions and want to take this house for themselves? Thanks, even if they have the intention, they have to have the ability. Leng Ruoxue said with confidence. Actually, she was willing to let those people stay here not because she was kind, but because she felt that it was not easy to meet someone in this mystic realm. Moreover, she had yet to figure out the true appearance of this mystic realm, and she had not found her godfather and the rest. Hence, if she could get along with these people, it was not impossible to temporarily work together with them. Now, it all depended on whether these people could withstand her test. While Leng Ruoxue and the demon were chatting, Qing Xian'er, who was in the guest room, could not calm down. After Qing Xian'er had washed up, she started pacing back and forth in the guest room. Her heart couldn't calm down no matter what, and her jealousy towards Leng Ruoxue had been reignited. What right did that woman have to possess such a divine weapon? Looking at the decorations in the guest room, all of them were carefully selected. The decorations inside were not inferior to those in her boudoir. Just the guest room alone was so exquisite, one could imagine how luxurious the master room would be. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't control the jealousy in her heart. Actually, she was wrong. The decorations in Leng Ruoxue's master's room were not as good as the guest room. Leng Ruoxue had always liked a simple and clear style. Hence, the decorations in her room were pitifully few. It was just that they were more exquisite in comparison. However, one's jealousy could not be controlled. At this moment, Qing Xian'er's heart was being devoured by the poison known as jealousy. No matter how she thought about it, she felt that Leng Ruoxue, that lowly woman, was not worthy of possessing this divine weapon. Only she, a direct descendant of the Qing family, had the right to possess such a divine weapon. Although she and the third elder of the Cao family had not discussed it, the two of them had coveted this house at the same time, and her desire seemed to be stronger. Thinking of this, she turned around and left the room, pushing open the door next door. The person in the room next door was her brother. Seeing Qing Xian'er enter uninvited, Cheng Yi, who was currently wearing his clothes and had his upper body bare, revealed an uncomfortable expression. Xian'er. Why didn't you knock before you came in? Cheng Yi hastily put on his clothes and said unhappily. Big brother. I'm your little sister, what are you being shy about? Qing Xian'er looked at her brother's expression and said disapprovingly. Then you should knock. Cheng Yi said, leaving no room for discussion. All right. Big brother, I was wrong. Qing Xian'er didn't want to anger her brother over such a small matter, so she hurriedly apologized. Following that, she very seriously said, I have something important to discuss with you. What is it? Seeing Qing Xian'er's serious expression, Cheng Yi asked in confusion. Big brother. What do you think of this divine artifact? Qing Xian'er was afraid that the walls had ears, so she directly transmitted her voice. Of course it's good. This is a legendary spatial divine weapon. Not everyone can possess it. Cheng Yi replied. Chapter 1727, Greed, 4, What if? This divine artifact can belong to us. Cheng Xian carefully probed. She didn't know if her brother would agree with her idea, but she knew that very few people could resist the temptation of such a divine weapon. You want to buy it from Miss Leng? Cheng Yi looked at his sister and asked. This was something that she had to go bankrupt to get. He didn't think that she would sell it. Buy. I'm afraid we can't afford it. Cheng Xian laughed evilly. She thought to herself, this brother of mine is really honest at times. He actually thought of buying it. Even if he wanted to buy it, where would they find so much money? Then how do you want to get it? Cheng Yi's face was full of question marks. As long as that woman surnamed Leng dies, her divine weapon will become ownerless. At that time, won't it belong to us? Cheng Xian said. You think too easily. She has so many people around her, do you think you can kill her? Cheng Xian's words made Cheng Yi speechless. Although he was also somewhat envious of that divine tool, he knew his own limits and would not delude himself for such a ridiculous thing. In addition, he had always been a cautious person, so although he was envious of that divine tool, he had never thought of taking it for himself. Thus, his little sister's thoughts made him feel quite uneasy. The people around her aren't very strong, so it's easy to deal with them. However, I've never thought of killing her personally. Cheng Xian laughed evilly. With Brother Lan here, how could she possibly let him see her dark side? In front of Brother Lan, she would always be the well-behaved and cute Xian. Then what do you want? Cheng Yi was shocked and asked nervously. The monsters in this secret realm should like them a lot. Cheng Xian laughed evilly as she spoke her thoughts. You're crazy. If we really attract those monsters here, we'll lose our lives. Cheng Xian's crazy thoughts caused Cheng Yi's heart to beat wildly, and his face turned as black as ink. Even now, he still had a lingering fear of those monsters. He couldn't even hide from them. His little sister actually wanted to use them to kill Leng Ruoxue and the rest. How was this possible? How could those mindless monsters that only knew how to kill listen to his sister? This was simply wishful thinking. We won T. As long as those monsters kill Leng Ruoxue first, this house will belong to me. Once it recognizes its master, we'll be safe hiding inside. Cheng Xian said confidently. Can you guarantee that the monsters will kill them first? Cheng Yi suppressed his anger and asked. His sister's idea was too stupid. He would never agree to it no matter what. After all, they had already experienced the dangers of this mystery realm. Therefore, what they needed the most now was allies, and not greed at the sight of wealth. If they could not even keep their lives, what was the use of obtaining many treasures? Only a fool would do something like that. Thanks, although I'm not 100% sure, we can think of a way. Cheng Xian said. Xian I won't allow you to have any ideas about this divine weapon. In this secret realm, the first thing we have to do is to ensure our survival. Therefore, we must get along well with them. Only then will our chances of survival increase greatly. After listening to Cheng Xian's words, Cheng Yi sternly warned her. Scheming against an ally and scheming at the sight of wealth was an extremely unwise move in this dangerous secret realm, so he would not allow Cheng Xian to have such thoughts. All right. I'll just give up. Seeing that her brother did not agree, and his attitude was very unyielding, she could only go along with it. Xian It's also a good thing for us that Miss Leng has this divine weapon. At least, we don't have to be so afraid when we're with them, and our chances of survival have increased. Therefore, we must treat them as allies and work together in this secret realm. Only in this way can we leave this place alive. Cheng Yi was afraid that his sister was still thinking about other people's divine artifacts, so he had to make his words more clear. I know, Cheng Xian nodded her head. Of course she understood this logic. However, in her heart, she felt that if the divine weapon was in her hands, their chances of survival would be higher. However, since her brother did not support her idea, she could only bury this idea in her heart for the time being. However, it was absolutely impossible for her to give up. Both parties seemed to be living in harmony for a few days. Leng Ruoxue had a better understanding of the mystic realm. However, she had yet to see a single one of the monsters that the other party was talking about. During the day, they searched for clues in the secret realm, and at night, they all went into their rooms to recuperate. Just like that, half a month's time passed quickly. Although Third Elder Chao had only lived in the house for half a month, the more he knew about the house, the deeper his desire for it grew. However, he did not dare to show it or reveal his thoughts to anyone. However, his attitude towards Fengde and the others was much friendlier. Every day, he would go to Fengde and the others and chat with them enthusiastically. He would inquire about the other party's news without batting an eyelid. But after a few days, he was disappointed to find out that he didn't get any useful information. On the contrary, he let the other party get a lot of information. Moreover, in order to win their trust, he almost told them about the Cao family's background. This fact made him extremely depressed, but at the same time, he became more courageous. Fengde and the others enjoyed Elder Chao's enthusiasm. They answered all his questions, but unfortunately, they did not answer his questions. As the two sides continued to play the game of Tai Chi, they were getting closer and closer to a valley.